I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Monterey County Commission meeting order Monday, June 8th. Is there any public comment? No one.
Set the mood, I guess.
Works for me. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm here today in response to last week's commission meeting. In light of the lack of communication between the county administrator and this commission, I am respectfully requesting on behalf of the Marion County taxpayers that the previous vote in favor of giving $42,000 to the conservation group be rescinded. Per your county administrator, as stated at last week's meeting, you should not vote on the financial requests made by any group, either allocated or appropriated, until such time as you begin your budget process. The conservation group did not provide financial accountability nor proof of their actual benefit to the county. Recently, during a commission meeting, when questioned about this process and why the sudden change, your county administrator stated that, quote, typically we wait. However, the conservation group has been consistently approved and funded for the last 25 years. Approval granted for the sake of historical precedence is not a valid reason, nor is it fiscally responsible. It isn't difficult to be consistent, but it is intentional not to be. Unfortunately, this lapse in communication could have been avoided if this issue was properly addressed at the May 26th County Commission meeting, when the county administrator suggested that a process be developed to better streamline the social groups wishing to request funding. Several commissioners recommended a policy be written to include a process that clarifies all financial history and a cost-benefit analysis prior to being eligible for a hearing. Policies provide the guardrails that ensure consistency, clarity, and accountability. These are necessary when conducting any and all business throughout our county. I urge you to create and commit to following policy, regardless of the pressure to do what has always been done. While this may not be popular with everyone, it is impartial, and your constituents will appreciate your attention to honest representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any additions or correction to the agenda?
I'd like to add just a short segment on policy. Somewhere when we get a chance at the end, or 10, 15 minutes.
Anything else?
Make a motion to approve the agenda with the added item.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any business?
We have the minutes of June 1st.
Any additions or corrections? Make a motion to approve the minutes as is. All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll abstain.
Okay, we have early checks in the amount of $45,280.52.
questions on anything on the checks? Make a motion that we pay $45,280.52.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's all I have.
What did you want to? Policy.
Okay, in your packet was the ACH policy. Do you all have a chance to review that?
Make a motion to approve the clerk's ACH policy as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, in your packet, you have my report. Any questions on the one-page report there? Do you want to remind the board that you have the Pulse of Public Health, that training again at the health department? You can do it virtually, or if you go to the health department for it, Krista will have lunch there. That's this coming Friday. So if you come at 11:45, she'll provide lunch, and the training starts at 12. We will need a list of, or she will need to know who's going to be able to attend.
Thinking I'll be there.
I'll try to get there.
Okay.
I'll be there.
Okay, thank you. Or do you think you'll be able to be there, Mike?
Early in the week to tell.
Okay, I'll put you with a question mark, and we'll prepare a special notice on that. I did include some award letters. We did receive the cost share grant award for that section of Nighthawk, and so it's a 50-50 with the state paying up to $450,000 and the county paying $450,000. And I did put the applications in there on these so that you can refresh on what we applied for. The other grant award that we learned about is we just also received an award for the local bridge improvement program. And so that is, the maximum award is $1,700,000, and that is a 90% state match, 10% local. And that is for the bridge, it's on Pawnee. The information on that is also in your packet on that application that we submitted. It has photos and so forth. So that's good news on both of those, so.
Had a good week.
Yes. Let's see. There was information in your packet, that last year there was an approval for letter of support and a commitment for funding for Idea Tech for their broadband acceleration grant that serves the Burns area. That was awarded, and so they are now requesting the support that we had initially offered. The total amount is $12,500. We do have an invoice right now for the first half of that support. And that was not initially indicated where it would be funded from. I think there might have been, if I remember right, there was talk about possibly utilizing funds from the wind farm. So that's where I would propose that we fund that from.
I'll move to pay the approved contribution for the Idea Tech BAG 4.0 Butler Marion project in the amount of $12,500 to be paid from the wind farm pilot proceeds.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
How many more of these do we have?
There's at least one more. Probably.
That's the K-15 to 290th Durham with TCW.
I believe so. There might be two more. There was one at Lehigh area too, I think. I have to go back and look.
I know the one in Durham, this board approved, I think it was a $100 donation per resident, but there's no indication of how many residents that includes.
I didn't have the total. I think they had to have a certain amount, certain number in order to qualify. Get that number.
There was I don't know, I have to go back and look at the minutes.
There's nothing in the minutes about how many it was. It was just a brief description of the project area and that you'd approved $100 per resident. But there's no specifics. I just don't know what we're funding. And that's the only other one I found. If you said there's one in Lehigh.
They talked about, we had a few that were presented and I don't remember offhand. I'd have to
Home
research.
something was
That was a buy.
run to Lehigh. Did that ever happen?
What's that?
Home internet or whatever, that high-speed fiber?
We've got it all through town. Home telephone did it.
Yeah.
Lake Elba.
So they never came back and asked.
No,
I
they
think we just gave them a letter of support.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't end up getting any grant or anything for it. They just finally said, after 2 years of trying or whatever, they're like, we're doing it anyway.
Costs keep increasing, you'll just wind up getting a grant to pay the difference if you wait.
Yeah.
We can research that and come back. But I don't know that that it was specified. I'd have to see if there's any additional information from back then. Okay, there was a resolution in your packets. As you know, we talked about with the adoption of the ACH policy and the processes that we utilize, that to fully comply with the policy, we would look at moving the payday meeting up in the week or a day prior to payday, so that the board can sign off on the warrants and the payday before the paychecks are actually issued. So that resolution is in your packets. One piece of feedback on it, where it says any separate payday meeting shall be held at 9 a.m. I believe that we would have to hold any payday meeting, whether it's separate or not, whether it's separate or we're having additional business at 9 o'clock, because we have to have that ACH filed to the bank by 11 for people to get paid the next day. So we probably need to take out the word separate because that's the purpose of having the payday meetings at 9. So, what the purpose is. I did include the previous resolution in your packet as well so that you could see what it was passed before.
What number would this one be, Ashley?
2026-20.
I would make a motion to approve resolution 2026-20, amending the 2021-07 resolution relating to regular meeting schedule for the Board of County Commissioners, with the one correction that all payday meetings shall begin at 9 o'clock.
Second.
Kent? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we can print that with the correction and get a signature here shortly. Okay. The next thing that I have was the amended trailer bid for emergency management, so that we were looking at all like trailers. So the new bid from Jost Fabricating is $3,950 for a 7,000 pound capacity. Were there any other questions about that request?
Just wondered, is that something on their lot? Because they do have a disclaimer on the bottom there about materials could go up. I wasn't quite sure if that was something that was on their lot or if they were gonna fabricate it.
Marcy's online, she can probably answer. She may be able to answer if she's actually.
Ordered was someplace.
Yeah, Diamond T.
She says she made a comment. It just disappeared.
Right there. They will fabricate at Diamond T.
I'd make a motion. Purchase a trailer from Joe's Fabricating from out of $39.50.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Just making sure I have everything. Okay, that's all I have under administrative.
Scott?
So I have a trailer that I purchased a little over, right at a year ago, I think, out there that was gutted and that. Of course, we tried to find a trailer within the specs of what is allowed out there, which I was off on those. I found one. I basically have it purchased, but I haven't paid for it. So, but then realized Isaac's like, hey, it's too long according to the specs, and all that. Of course, it is extremely hard to find a trailer within those specs and be HUD compliant. They just don't, I mean, they make them, but it's such a small margin that they make of that size that is 60 foot or less with the tongue on it. This one would be 70 foot with the tongue on it, which Isaac has measured, I have measured, and it will fit in the spot that is there without, sticking out too far, not going into the road. I mean, there's still plenty of room and that kind of thing. So, basically I'm trying to see if we can approve. I have some pictures, overhead views of that as well. And I know we can only go back so far due to the electrical boxes back there where the wiring runs. Okay, you got some good pictures there then. You don't need mine.
Do you have yeah.
I was gonna say, so, I mean, pretty much, just to explain, I took these pictures and I tried to make it just kind of visible for you guys as to where the red line there would be looking to the south compared to the other trailers is where his 70 foot with the tongue would end up. If, Tina, if you go to the front or the very first picture, that would be the rear. So the little gray on the right side is where the existing trailer back is, which that one that's existing is 47 foot.
Yeah, 47 foot.
So if we pushed it back to where that red line is, that would be right there where the electrical line goes, where all the pedestals are. And then if you pushed it back to there, the 70 foot would be where the red is on the other two pictures. That one's facing north. And then that other one's just facing south, just to give you idea how much room there would be from the tongue to the roadway in comparison to the other trailers that are on that row.
How much does the tongue stick out?
4 foot.
4 foot.
Is it removable?
I don't know if that one is or not, but obviously
Put a table on the front of it.
yeah, put a table or something in front of it so it wasn't put something around it so somebody wasn't running into it.
Well, I'm just looking at the picture now, you got a picnic table sitting there. It's basically taking up the space up to the red line.
Right.
If you put a picnic table, then you didn't take up that space.
But yeah, like I said, those pictures pretty well showed, but just trying to look, online and stuff too, most single wides built after the 70s were larger, 66 to 80 feet. A lot of those others, the smaller ones were more common in, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, but, just trying to look up out of 150 to 200 listens, you might expect to find 5 or 10, a real small percentage of, and then you find one and it's old like mine is, which is a 1967. The one I would be moving in would be like an 88. So it kind of, I understand some of those lots are shorter or longer. It would almost have to be a situation type deal where not everybody could move that length of one in, which is kind of like that in those other couple spots and stuff too. So that's kind of basically where I'm.
How many more of these lots could potentially fit that requirement that you just had drawn with the lines?
Roughly, I'm gonna say maybe 10 to 12, I'm guessing, could fit a 7.
They're all right there
pretty
together.
much all on that row. Yeah, I don't think that, like, if you're familiar with it, Fisherman Lane, which runs east and west, Camper Lane runs east and west. I don't think you could fit a 70-foot trailer on either one of those. But back there on Pine Tree, like where this one is going to the south, I think pretty much every single one of those you could fit a 70-foot trailer in.
Well, the one guy that his burnt down, it took him 2 years to find one.
Yeah, that was within code.
Yeah.
And so this one's 88. So when you get up in 2010 models, 2020 models, I don't know my trailers. Is this pretty a standard size now?
So I don't know a whole lot about. Since I've been there, the 8 years that I've been out there, there's been one trailer that has been brought in, and that was the gentleman's who's caught on fire. And he bought a camper because he couldn't find one that fit the size, and then he ended up finding, he bought that camper, put it on the spot, and then he pulled the camper off when he found the mobile home. He ended up finding it in El Dorado, and I think it was 58 foot, so it was right under. But that is the only one that's been brought in. But there is a mobile home, and I don't know what year it was brought in. There's one that's out there that's a 2017, which is the only one out there that's post 2000. And it was fit within. I don't know what the backstory is on it, but I do know that the gentleman, like Scott said, the gentleman that's burnt down, he was the first one that's really looked, and he said it was pretty tough too. But you know, they're out there. It's finding them. But yeah, the one that's a 2017, I don't know what the story is on it, but that's the newest one that we have in the park.
So what we got here says for most lots, mobile home shall be between 15 feet and 60 feet. So we'd have to add a third category pretty much for this lane.
See, well, and that's, I kind of talked.
Because you gotta still stick,
yeah.
you still have to stick with that for the others.
Well, and
because
that's
they
what-
can't fit.
And that's what I talked to Tina about it a little bit, and that's kind of what we talked about is the best way. I mean, I don't know if you could make a line in that agreement that says that it's just a case by case deal depending on the lot size. I don't know if you make a one-time allowance, and then if anybody else wanted to go above this, they would need to come back in here and have this same conversation. I don't know how the best way to go about that. If we
Well,
want
you're
to,
saying, Isaac, if there's 10 spots there, you know, no one's gonna put one in less than 70 feet then. Once we've set that precedent, so we gotta change policy.
well, and that's kind of the thing. Well, and I know too, and I mean, we've kind of talked about this I hate to say it, every single lot out there is different. And when they brought those mobile homes in, you know, some of those mobile homes are placed dead center in the lot. Some of them are placed as far right as they can be on the lot. And so like even the width allowances there, I mean, some of them can't get that just because of the lot restriction. And so that's it. I mean, I don't know if we change this, if there's gonna be people that want to bring in newer ones or not. Cause like I said, in the 8 years I've been there, this is really the first one that's been somebody actually wants to replace one. You know, the other one that was replaced had to be because it burnt down, but those are the only two that I've ever even been requested to bring in a new trailer.
I would just say going forward though,
Yeah.
if 70 feet is allowed, that's what you're.
Right.
Anything brought in, does it need the
Yeah.
HUD certification?
Yes,
This
well,
trailer.
and that is according to our lease agreement, if anything is being brought in, it has to be post 1976, which is the year the HUD placards became a thing. Anything else that's like that's prior to that, grandfathered in. And so it's there, but as soon as that goes, you cannot bring anything in older than that, so yes.
And yours is HUD certified or can be, that you wanna bring in?
Yeah, it's out at Mustang Trailer Park. I guarantee they gotta have everything out there. Cause I was basically gonna give the other one away and they were gonna move it, but according to that, you know, it can't be moved, so basically we're just gonna haul it off.
Can't go anywhere else in the county.
Right.
It would have to leave the county in order for it to be hauled off.
Yeah.
It was nice it got brought to our attention before too much money was spent on something that was retroactive, I know is what we've talked about.
Also, my mind keeps going back to the one that burned down, and I don't know the exact situation it became, but mine goes back to rodents, electrical, lots of things.
Well, and this at least gives an option for somebody to, upgrade and make things nicer without, like that guy spending 2 years. I've looked for a year and it's like, well, we'll get to it when we get to it to remodel it and that, but we're still dealing with something. Obviously everything electrical would have been updated and things like that, but you're still dealing with a, 1967 So,
So we need a one-time variance. The case,
I'd say since there's 10 lots out there,
I'd like to
we need policy.
take, if we're gonna do something, I'd like to figure out what lots can fit the 70s and add that in here. That way we're not picking winners and losers.
I can easily go out there and measure all those just to see. I mean, I've never looked at 70 foot, but I really don't think you could do that on Fisherman or Camper Lane at all. And like right where his trailer is, that roadway kind of shortens up. I don't think you could do it from where his trailer is going back to the north, but I think going back to the south, you could.
I got more of those.
I would definitely feel better about picking the ones that can be.
Okay.
Each one has a number, right?
I don't know.
Lots, so
I don't know who owns any of them or rents any of them.
Yeah.
I
So-
marked mine in yellow, but
This way I'm not deciding who can get one.
Yeah.
You can also put it up with side, front yard, rear yard setbacks. Just establish what the minimum standard is for each and every one, and that'll be applicable to all of them, no matter where they are. So you don't get into that winner loser element of it.
I like that even better.
I mean, it's, a certain number of maximum square footage that can be covered on the lot. That way, you don't get something that's end to end.
I like that even. Setbacks from road right of ways or something. So there's so much past clearance.
If the owner buys a lot, they know exactly what their maximum is.
The only issue with that is then you've gotta have all those lots surveyed.
Kind of do.
You can't do that without surveying those lots. If you don't know if your neighbor is.
wasn't the pedestals kind of your mark anyway? For
Yes.
width anyway?
The pedestal,
Yeah.
yeah.
Pedestals
The
are
pedestals, I mean, you don't, your lot is in between the pedestals.
the electrical pedestals.
Electrical pedestals in the back.
Do we know if that water line runs pretty much parallel with the road, or is it set back further in places?
It's parallel with, that's the one, so where his is going to the south and going to the north, just about another 5 trailers is the one that they just redid in 2018. It is parallel with those pits in the ground.
Jogs quite a bit for. About 7 lots before you get back to. Worst thing is we don't want the water line to ever be a problem.
Underneath it.
Well, or even hard to dig it up and fix it. I mean, still gonna have 2 or 3 feet on the back side of the water line. Or even repairs. That's why I was asking if the tongue.
Gas
Some
line
do
runs
now.
back there too.
Right.
It's in the back, yeah. It's
Well, I know the one that's beside me doesn't have the tongue on it, I'm not gonna go snoop and see if there's unbolts or what, but it's like I can make it unbolt, or if it doesn't.
That would just make sure for repair or something.
Right.
As far as looks, it looked just as well without it there.
Yeah, if it'll unbolt, I'm definitely gonna unbolt it.
How would this change, Isaac, impact parking at those?
really the only one that it would impact is his.
At this point.
At this,
Yeah, at this point, and that's the other thing I was just gonna say, so just if like across the street, from the rest of those that go south, 95% of those individuals that own those trailers park across the street right there on that grassy area, which is just up from the heated dock. They don't even park on the side where their mobile homes are, they park across the street in the
Yeah,
grass.
'cause half of them are still parking, or you're still sticking out in the road anyway.
Yeah, and so they just move across the street and they'll park in the grass, that's just to the east side of Lakeshore there.
Can we charge more?
Mike's gonna up the rent based on square footage.
Yep.
If they try, if they try to park in front of their trailer, they can, but their vehicles are pretty much right there on the roadway line, so they pretty much all.
Half of them are on the road, half the vehicles on the road.
Yeah, they all park across the street there in that grass.
How much do you think a survey fee would be? I got a clue.
I don't know that you really need to survey it. Like, I mean,
Just going on what
if you
was.
got into a legal matter, I suppose you would, but between the pedestals is pretty well, it's,
It's pretty cut and dry.
they're not moving.
Yeah.
Then you got gas meters, pretty well set your setback off the county road.
Yeah.
Your front setback was, where was the water line? It was in the back?
So the water line is in the front, your gas and your electrical is in the back, and actually the gas is further back than the electrical is. But the water's in the front.
So the water line itself could be your setback.
Isaac, do you know if we have ingress egress easements on those for repair purposes?
Do we?
I don't know. We don't?
Well, I mean, it's our property.
Yeah, but if you've got a property owner on there and they go ahead and set over the top, it's a problem.
Pretty much with what we've done, because I mean, like I said, it's, if you go out there, you can't look at the back of those trailers and they're all, some of them sit forward, some of them sit as far back as possible, some of them are kind of centered. But what we've always done is nothing, that electrical line's kind of the closest, I guess. Nothing, that, as long as that electrical line stays open, that's kind of the back line that's there.
How are we defining open? 6 feet on either side? Somebody's got to get in there and dig it up, and it's a foot away from.
It's not 6 foot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a couple of them that are probably 6 inches from where those pedestals are. Yeah.
And these are all required to to remain mobile, so you can move.
Mhm.
That's not.
Okay,
Doesn't say readily mobile.
No,
It says mobile.
it does.
Like tomorrow,
I like that, because I see that all the time in my code book. Readily accessible or accessible, it's two big
makes
things.
a difference.
has anyone ever had to move to get to any of the utilities?
No, we've never had an issue there at all. Which we've also never had to dig up the electrical. The only utilities that we've ever done anything with since I've been here is when they redid those water lines in, I think that was 2018. And even when they did that, they didn't have to move any trailers or mess with any trailers when they did that either.
Is there 10 foot on that water line now or less
From the road,
from the trailer line that's there now?
from his,
Any of them
is there at least 10 foot? Not
or
all.
less?
There's less than 10 foot, yes, yeah, there is. There's a couple of them where that water line's probably a foot or two from the trailer.
So do we wanna change the rules or do a variance on each one that asks to do it?
I think we need to step back and look at redoing the regulations. Like you said, so we're not picking winners and losers, so we have a policy that's just not arbitrary and capricious, that says this is where this will fit and this is what they have to do, so, I know you'd like to probably get your trailer tomorrow, but. Yeah, I'm kinda like, it's supposed to be moved by the end of the month. Like I said, I screwed up on the measurements and I thought they told me different and that too, so. Everybody is on hold with me till, and then that throws that off another month and I don't know how Mustang's gonna like that too, I don't move it for another month.
Definitely gonna hit you with a rental.
Oh yeah, no, and that's like $500 just to sit there. And then trying to reschedule with the movers and all that stuff as well.
definitely gonna have to add something to this, though. One way or another. Is that something we could do by next week?
Well, the answer is yes. It's a question of whether it's something you want to do, and like there's if we do setbacks for any reason, that's really simple and straightforward and easy. But you're right, we're gonna have to survey it, and I don't know what that expense would be if we did that, and what that necessarily does if we've got, they're gonna grandfather a lot of these anyway, so I'm not sure you solve a lot of problems in some instances, because if you've got a water line that's 6 inches or an electric line that's 6 inches away from where they're currently sitting, they are mobile, so they can be moved. But then suddenly we're stirring that up.
Get a surveyor for a couple months.
No, I found anymore, a lot of it they can do from their desk. They'll do it with GPS system and hopefully be reasonably accurate. They've still got to pin the corners.
So it's nothing is sitting over the water line currently. Nothing is sitting over the electrical line currently, right?
No, that's correct, yeah.
We just set those as the barriers.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you're not over the top of the water line, you're not over the top of the electrical line. Front to back. A one call sets that for you.
Yeah. And you have noticed, because each lot that you buy, you know where those pedestals are, and that's the space you've got.
It's electric line, yeah.
Let me rephrase that. No trailers sit over the water line for the section where he is at, where they redid those, but all the way down Fisherman Lane and all the way down Camper Lane, they still have the above ground frost-free hydrants. Those run right underneath every single one of those mobile homes. They're set in the center of the lots, whereas the ones that they redid are in the front of the lots. I don't know that was all started before I started, so I don't know if that was a part of the conversation as to why they did not redo that part of the park when they redid the water lines. But there are mobile homes that sit over the water lines, just not on that section where they had redone. Yeah.
I think we're opening up a big can of worms. Can of worms.
That's my concern, that I don't wanna just do something and create more problems down the road. I don't think it should take us that long to do an assessment and see what fits where, and if we identify certain lots where up to this length or within these parameters is permitted. But if you got mobile homes sitting on a water line, you can't say in between the water line.
Yeah, right.
You could, but then when they moved them, then you have another problem.
Yeah.
Because right now they're grandfathered.
Are the electrical, or is that all above ground, or is it buried?
So it is all buried, except there is one section, and the electrical's the same everywhere you go. The pedestals are all at the very back of the mobile homes on Fisherman Lane, Camper Lane, and Pine Tree Lane, except the very far northwest corner, there's 5 mobile homes that have above head power. Everything else is pedestal and it's underground, but those 5 are above head.
The one they tore down last year.
Well, if you're thinking about using the utilities as a boundary,
Maybe you don't want to sit over any
we need to have the electric and gas company go out there and mark them all. It's just to make sure we know exactly where they're running. There's no jog in there anywhere. I mean, I think they would do that for free.
That sewer line also runs on the back side of those as well.
They'll also use a disclaimer.
Oh, of course.
Anything within, I don't know, what is it, 24 inches on each side of a line, because they go ahead and sound that.
But the electric lines are private, right? Or, no, they don't have meters.
Electric?
It's
like plotted, yeah, but they're not individually metered for the mobile homes.
Yeah, so that's a private line. Gas line is utility, sewer is utility, improvement district utility. The water line is improvement district utility.
What do you think as far as in charge of the improvement district, Greg?
What I think, I mean,
Well, I guess yours is outside, so we're driving right.
yes. You proposing to get them all surveyed?
No.
Oh.
I'm just saying we can't use a setback without
Without a survey.
a survey.
Okay.
What I'm proposing is that we take a look at the lots, and if there are 10 to 12 lots that could accommodate a larger trailer,
Identify all of them.
we identify those lots with the caveat that they don't extend over the existing utilities. And we make that
Write it down.
a simple line and it's not perfect, but it's defensible and it's not.
Can that be made as an amendment to the policy rather than redrawing the whole policy, or?
Have to look at it. I would probably
Identify certain lots. You plug that in, plug those in and.
It would just be an amendment to section H and
You're just talking about the expanded lots, not extending.
It'd be an additional amendment to the policy.
If somebody wants to move one that's over the top of the water line, we don't want that in there. So we wanna make sure it's just to these lots that are just determined that they are capable of having something larger. Those have to fit the boundary of not extending over the utilities.
So we'd need to know exactly which lots are,
These are lot numbers, yeah.
would have that.
That's something
Yeah, it'd just be,
doable in a week.
yeah, 'cause it would just be, I mean, from what I'm understanding, it would just be the mobile homes, the lots which were a part of that water upgrade. Cause all the other ones, like Pine Tree, Fisherman Lane, those all have those water lines that run down the center, but back on Pine Tree, they're from, I think it's like 4 to the north of him, all the way to the south, those are the only ones that have that water line in the front. So there's a big gap in that picture where there's just grass.
Yeah.
There's a pit there that runs those water lines. Everything to the south of that is on the new water line. Everything to the north of that still has the above ground phosphate hydrants.
But just looking at these marks here, rough marks,
Mm-hmm.
that road curves.
Yes.
So some of these aren't gonna make the cut.
None of them, so his is the one that's the first one that's where the road has pushed out. So from there to the south, those are the only lots that I think could accommodate a 70-foot trailer. Like you said, that road jogs back to the west and those lots are significantly smaller than the ones going to the south because that roadway does jog back to the west.
Which one is his, this yellow road?
Yellow, yeah, I kinda marked in yellow.
Okay. So look, just by observation, it looks like the one to the north of him and maybe one more. But that's about it.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say, so I could go and measure those in a matter of a couple of hours, just to make sure.
Get 3 or 4 south of him, that's as far as you're gonna have.
Yeah, you're only gonna go so many south too, because that road starts to angle.
It narrows down.
Okay.
In agreement to get new measurements and make an amendment.
Make an amendment for those lots that can accommodate.
So we could potentially bring back an amended agreement for next,
week.
right?
Isaac,
So
you'd
there would
get
be
the
no,
number of lots, yes?
Yeah, I can.
Bet you there's only about 6 that are gonna be
Do you,
larger ones.
just for clarity, just up to 70 foot, Or like, you want me to measure each one and have a length for each one, what could accommodate there? So like if it is less than 70, but it's over 60, do we want that? Or do we just want 70 foot?
Up to,
70 max, up to 70 max.
but not covering.
As long as that, the utilities stay open.
Just you could load it up and park it and we'll do it next week.
He didn't just say that, did he?
I've had boats up there for years.
No, we don't need any more. We don't need any more problems.
Rode the bus one day.
Okay, so then we bring this topic back next week.
Yeah. In the agenda for next Monday.
So I need to put everybody else on hold till next Monday. Okay.
Tell them you're working with the government, it's slow.
Right.
What do you know about that?
Too much. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. You need this?
I do. That'd be great.
Sorry, you are a little bit.
It's all right. I know, I'm looking at it.
I need to pay that
Yep. So in your packet, you had information on the fireworks sale and discharge. The board sets a schedule for the sale and discharge of fireworks outside of the city limits, except for the reservoir or other federal properties. The legal selling season runs from June 20th to July 7. That was expanded last year in 2025. Local jurisdictions regulate the hours of discharge for fireworks. Last year, you guys decided not to extend the local hours of sales or discharge. Attached, there was a photo that Isaac provided, possible restricted areas for fireworks at the lake in the red. You have the 2026 fireworks schedule worksheet. And then you also have the 25, 24, and 23 schedule, what you guys did. The KAR 2269, the discharge of fireworks. It does say a person shall not ignite or discharge fireworks into, under, or from a car or vehicle, whether moving or standing still or on a public roadway. Then there is KSA 31502 regarding the sale of fireworks. We did find a resolution back from 2006 regarding fireworks. I think it's, I guess, something that Brad needs to review.
Yeah.
That was probably when, I don't know if that's when they first started
Yeah, I don't know.
allowing sales out in the county maybe.
Any questions?
We have those areas at the county lake that are designated. So how do we keep fireworks off of Lakeshore Drive? Last year, when they had the display, they were going off everywhere down.
It's not just during the display, it's literally from the day.
That's when I was out.
Yeah, to the day it closes.
I mean, how do we police that? I mean, how can we put a little T? Because it's dangerous. I mean, there was kids standing, little kids in the middle of the street.
Right, so that's part of this discussion. So Isaac is recommending that at least those areas that are in the red are prohibited from having fireworks set off in those areas where there are a lot of campers, right, Isaac?
Right.
And it's not, we have the legal authority by that Kansas administrative regulation that it's not allowed to be set off in public roadways. So if you, I don't know, you're just gonna have to potentially get the word out, or if you have designated areas that you want to assign that are, you could prohibit it at the entire area of the county lake except for certain areas if you wanted to.
Office Drive, a public roadway at that point, which is where I saw a big issue.
I think every single roadway out there, I mean, as far as not the residential area, but inside is a public roadway, from my understanding. That's it, I mean,
There are areas that would potentially be, do you have any areas that you would say would be appropriate for it?
well, and that's,
But what to shoot out in front of the house, so.
and that's kind of the thing, I mean, I know, like, the conversation with Tina, there's so many people out there for 4th of July and that weekend. Like you said, trying to, keep people from shooting them off of Lakeshore Drive, let alone the other public roadways, is gonna be hard enough. So like whether you designated an area to shoot them off or you designated an area that you couldn't shoot them off, these 3 areas are the areas where I guess I've had the most, I don't wanna say complaints, but they're the campgrounds where people have campers. And I mean, you know, you have those campers 5 feet apart from each other and one person has $500 worth of fireworks that they're shooting off between the campers, and the camper next door is like, hey, you know, we have issues with that every year. And so that's kind of where this is something that I think we as a park could manage pretty easily, but depending on how far you wanted to go with this or how you wanted to do it, that would be my main concern, is how you can do it but yet still enforce it relatively, I won't say easily, but it could be done. Because there's people everywhere out there.
You treat the trailer houses just the same as the camping.
And honestly, I would be 100% good with that too.
Just because, I mean,
It's the
one just burned down.
same situation, yeah, there's a bunch of them in one little area. I mean, that little.
Once a fire kicks, I mean, it grows and stretches across.
Yeah.
I guess it'd be a question of the sheriff, but I'm just curious whether there was any tickets issued in the last couple of years.
Out at the lake?
Ticket for your little kids?
Yeah, give it to the parents.
Not that I know of, though.
Because I mean, if we don't have any teeth in the enforcement, it's not gonna matter.
And I mean, as far as the campground goes, that's kind of the same thing. I mean, we wouldn't be issuing them tickets if they did it, but you could at least say, hey, you know, you guys cannot shoot them off. Which in the past, I mean, it kind of has been say a free-for-all.
Back up into the, shoot out of your own yard, a public road.
The whole area just in front of the lake hall, and as far as the swimming area, going that far north to the north end of the swimming area is where I saw little kids. And the worst was kids, minor kids, setting off some of these pretty powerful fireworks right there in front of several hundred people. And had quite a bit of debris from them ending up on the hood of my vehicle.
I mean, that's it. I mean, if you've been out to the show, I mean, there's a ton of people out there that weekend,
And it's really grown from where we started by far.
correct. And the current policy is they can shoot them off anywhere inside, so I mean, it is kind of one of those things to where I don't know what the perfect solution is. I just figured if we could maybe at least limit some areas where they couldn't. I don't know if putting it that you can't shoot them on public roadways on the actual, like the little fireworks schedule that we release every year, if that would help at all. But like Kent said, I mean, Lakeshore, Lakeshore is where a lot of them go.
Well, it's a solid surface road.
Right, and
Not
that's
gonna light it on fire.
correct.
Well, they have that little parade thing and they throw them out.
If you draw around those trailers, I think you would
We'll see it.
handle the
It would at
the
least
structural fire potential.
Yeah, it would be a start, and I mean, that's kind of the thing, I think if we could at least maybe do that, and then we can and see how it goes. I mean, I'm sure we'll probably need to make some changes at some point, but that's something that I think we as a park could control, fairly easy. I do think we'll have issues with it, which that's fine, but
So you think we would wanna extend that to Fisherman Lanes or whatever the east and west ones are with them trailers?
yeah, I think now that, that's a good idea. If we extended that.
So if we went from there clear to the water and back to the,
I was just saying Lake Shore Drive to Office Drive, and then where it ties into
Yeah.
Pine Tree Lane down to back to Turkey Creek Road.
So that section there.
Are you talking about prohibiting a public or private discharge? And they're not on private property, okay.
Technically, it's all public property.
Yeah. I understand. I'm saying that incorrectly, aren't I?
Private property, private property, what is it?
private property on public land.
No, it's, what do they call that? When you buy the house at the tax sale, but you don't own any of the stuff that's sitting on the lot. Personal property.
Scully lease.
Oh, I see.
Personal
property.
Personal property
Private.
Less permanently affixed.
on public land.
You can't protect everybody.
And then maybe publicize that we're not gonna be allowing it on the road.
Public roadways, yeah. Yeah, we're out in the
Or
truck.
surfaces, something like that. If you drive by one time, you can tell them to back up and they will.
Yeah, and that's it. That weekend we're out constantly. So if we see him shooting it on the road, we can say something. That's not a problem. We're not gonna be able to issue him a ticket or anything, but we can just tell him, and that's fine. I think it would help.
Send Kent out there with the ticket.
See what they do in the city of
It
Hillsborough.
would be nice to have, at least one,
Right on the street, everywhere.
patrol car out there for a couple days.
Right.
I'm not sure that they're there 24/7.
Yeah, well, and they're not. I know, like on the day that we have ours, we have a fire truck out there because we have to. But as far as the sheriff's department goes, and I don't even want to know what their schedules are like on the 4th of July. I know that like in the past they've said that they'll try to come through, but as far as being out there for a day or anything, but I'm sure they got their own headaches that whole weekend as well. But
What day is the fireworks?
it's the 4th is on a Saturday. We were planning on doing that on a Friday.
Third,
Yeah.
because I knew that Peabody had them.
Yeah. We've always tried to stay away from that. But yeah, if they could come through, that would help. Knock on wood, we've never had any kind of serious accidents or anything.
One of them flashing signs that you could rent or something and set at the entrance addressing, especially in front of the lake hall, would that be a good detour that they would see?
As far as just like no fireworks.
Yeah, right, especially there in front of the lake hall. I don't know what it takes to rent one or something.
Well,
Maybe there's one that somebody's got.
my experience last week, nobody reads them signs.
That's also true.
Teach them how to read.
Went down into the World War II fountain. It says you can put your feet in the water, but do not walk in the water. Everybody's out there walking in the water. It's like, nobody reads them signs.
Signs everywhere out there. Same thing.
So I think it would help Isaac if the board would make an official motion of some sort of a decision about what would be prohibited.
Policy is.
And then we can work with sending out information about that ahead of time.
So you have no shooting of fireworks on the roadway.
That'll just be a note added into because it's currently a law in itself. There's no sense in making another law.
No, just a note pursuant to KSA
KAR.
It's administrative reg.
KAR Article 6, 22-6-9, discharge of fireworks is prohibited on a public
You shoot it off
public
the
roadway or
grass
the
only.
right of way.
So what?
Shoot the grass only.
Yeah, so we start all kinds of fires.
We're hoping for rain the day before.
Yeah. Yeah, so that KRA rule is to be added into the public note. But I'd make a motion that the illustration provided to us of the no fireworks zones be adopted with the extension around Lake Shore Drive to Office Drive, to Pine Tree Lane, back to Turkey Creek, and back to Lake Shore Drive, be encompassed also in that no fireworks zone.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there names for those campgrounds that you have boxed, or do you?
Unofficially, yes.
I'm just curious how to.
I mean, I think if we just said any, I mean, those are our campgrounds with hookups, with utilities.
Okay,
I think if we just said that, I mean, because those are the three that we have, everything else is private, those are just the three
Okay.
campgrounds that are with utilities.
okay, great.
Need to approve,
Yes.
approve the schedule as presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I don't know, it's the 250th. I was struggling to constrain anything, so.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, last year we didn't change it when the state statute was changed because we did it like the day before. And,
I also had a talk with one of the cities on reminding them that they are capable of setting their own rules. Our rules are set for outside their city boundaries. So if they would like to, they thought they were confined to what we did and they could constrain it more. And I reminded them that no, you could set your own rules for your city limits.
You can be more liberal.
Yeah.
Since if they
It's
like.
one of the things that doesn't work like normal.
well, they have to comply with state law just like we do. They don't have to comply with our. We're complying with the state law. We can be more restrictive, but we can't be more liberal. Same with them, but they don't have to.
But they can be more liberal than us.
In terms of the county.
So what was the vote?
I opposed it, so
You what?
I
You
oppose
opposed it? Okay.
that schedule. I think we need to expand it. But
Move on to the parking lot.
Thanks, Isaac.
Thank you.
Okay, so on that, Commissioner Dirks had developed that scope of work, and so we were just coming back for full board approval and see if there's any other feedback or comments before we can move forward with seeking bids.
I'd just like to say that I think, Mike, you brought this up for the first time in 2022, 2023. May of 2024, this board agreed to look into doing it. And now we are in June of 2026 and we're finally getting around to it.
It was brought up before COVID in 20, I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah,
Used.
I saw it back in 2023 and 2024.
In the minutes.
Yeah, having a scope of work and direction from the board is good to be able to move forward.
I would say I'll make a motion to approve the scope of work as presented and proceed to seek
Where would the money come from?
Mike's pocket. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, they talked at one time wind farm money should be used for the entire county for a good. I think maybe this would be a good project for that.
Well, we also have money set aside in the budget for courthouse improvements. So where my initial, I was just kind of waiting as a point of order because you had a motion on the floor. So I wasn't sure if it was okay for me to offer discussion. So
Did I get a second?
there was no second yet.
Oh, jeez.
Mike, you second it, Mike?
Okay, so now,
Move ahead and scope of work.
okay. So the courthouse, multipurpose building line item is where that funding would potentially come from. So that question.
All those in favor?
I personally want to thank everybody for supporting this for me, for what I went through, and still will be.
As far as the timeline for the bid process and due date, do you all have any feedback on that? Or typically it would be a few weeks that we would send bids out.
I mean, this is not rocket science. I'd like to direct Kevin to kind of formalize this and get this out as soon as possible. And with the caveat that, you know, the bidders need to come and visit the site. We're not gonna develop technical drawings to bid off of. They need to come on site, look at it, and bid it based on existing conditions. But I'd like to see Kevin get working on that ASAP and at least get it.
If we had it done before the November elections would be nice. But whether or not it can be done that quick would be great.
And 30 days for a bid.
Yeah, all I'm asking for is there a specific time frame that you all want for this to be open?
30 days. 30 days. Everybody's freaking busy.
Hard to find, it's
So-
too small a
So
job.
the more time you give them, the more likely you'll get extra bidders. Right now.
Okay.
Anything I got for 2 weeks, I'm just declining at this point. About 25 a day.
Play.
That's all I need.
No. I'm just saying, it's the economy is hot right now.
Thank you.
Okay, we're ready for the table.
Yeah. So, they're just gonna need a little bit of background. I've just given them kind of what we've been working on, but they haven't had a chance to look at it yet, so.
So, y'all know we've been in our facility now since 2012. When the facility was built, the company that had the control systems and the camera systems, they're out of Alabama. So anytime I had any issues, it was 2 to 3 days before I could get somebody up to get something taken care of. Most of the issues we were having at that time was cameras. 2026, 2021, we did an upgrade on camera system with 4PC, which separated to two companies. I haven't done a service contract with Southwestern Communications, who had the initial, because all the issues we were having was cameras. But we're starting to see issues with our control systems, which controls the doors, the intercoms, of our control system. We control the lights, we control the water system, we control everything. Everything's getting pretty outdated. Most of the equipment is not serviceable. The parts aren't easy to get a hold of. Initially, I was gonna work with an individual we'd hired with the county to upgrade that system and create a new system, but he didn't stick around, so we didn't get to that. So I've been doing some research on it. I've been working on it for a couple of years, but the last 6 months, 8 months, it's really becoming evident that we've got the system's dying. So been working on getting quotes, trying to find some local, so that way, we get a little bit quicker response if we have an issue. I'm on a group with about 20 administrators that do what I do across the state, talking to them on who they're using, who they're utilizing. These names keep popping up. One in particular is a little bit bigger of a company. He's been doing some state contracts. I know he's been doing some DOC work. He's working with a couple of local jails now to upgrade their systems. Been getting really good feedback on that company, so.
So what I just handed you basically kind of summarizes what Jim was talking about, the control systems. I didn't give you any individual vendor information yet. I wanted to have us start with a general conversation so that if you have questions, or we can kind of flesh things out, and then if you're ready to look at individual, like the vendor information, then we could do that. We do have information on that as well. So this is actually a needed upgrade, but it has not touched the budget. We have not, that is not something that is a budgeted expense for this year. And so based on what is occurring right now, there is a little bit of an urgency to get it completed. And so the fiscal impact you can see on the front page is between $287,000 and $315,000 for this upgrade. Well, we know we need it, then, since it's not budgeted, there has to be, some discussion about. One thing I wanna be sure to emphasize is for future projects that we need to establish a structured capital planning process for all of our facilities, including setting aside dedicated funds every year specifically earmarked for future replacement of major building systems like HVAC, roofing, fire and security systems, and other critical infrastructure. And I started talking about that over a year ago. That would prevent us from having these kind of surprises if we're thinking long term. So that's something that we're gonna be working on in the budget. But there are some funding options, and those are listed on the second page. Potentially, we could pay for the upgrade from existing county funds, utilizing a portion of the $500,000 that's budgeted for the multi-purpose building in the general fund. Right now, we've already spent a little over $31,000 out of that. We also have an approved courthouse exterior repair that's gonna be scheduled for this fall for this side of the building to be cleaned and tuck pointed and repaired. And then we have the handicap accessible parking lot project that would be earmarked potentially out of that. And one other item to consider is with the recent hailstorms, we don't have all of the information back from insurance yet as far as how much we're going to receive, but we are going to have to do repairs to our buildings. And so the funding in that line is not, we don't really know the impact yet of that. There is an option, we could do lease purchase financing. There would be extra steps because of it's an operational component that's attached to the building. And so I don't know if you remember, but when we did the windows for the courthouse, we had to do additional steps. And so the lease purchase financing process is a little bit more expensive than a typical one to go through. We do have a vendor that has offered phased funding over 3 years. They have a fee tacked on there for that of $4,000 per year. Could be less to do that financing or that extended payment. Do you have questions for Jim or for me about?
Was any of these components under any kind of maintenance agreement in the past? And would they be in the future?
In the future, yes, they would be. Everything would be upgraded. The thing is if they were in the past, I did for several years, wasn't having any issues with that, like per se. But like I said, all that stuff was all just pretty much obsolete parts. You know, you can't hardly find anything.
What I'm saying, under maintenance agreement, they would be out at certain periods looking at this thing.
Right, so the one proposal that we have, there is a maintenance agreement included in it. It's for a 3-year period. That's like almost $65,000. So it's very pricey. However, we have done comparisons on what it might cost to do the maintenance agreement versus just services on its own. I'll go ahead and give this to you. If you did as needed, like one of the companies just does as needed. They have a 1-year warranty on all of the components and equipment. And then they don't do a service agreement, but it's an as needed, as we call them, basis. The other one does have a service agreement, and the parts are still warranted for 1 year, and any parts that are not still under warranty are not covered by the service agreement. So we would still have to buy those parts, but they do say that they discount them if you have a service agreement, but they have not provided an actual list or pricing on that. So there are still some things that with the service agreement that I would like to get more clarification on, but that's basically right. Yeah, okay. Before I hand out the sheet that has pricing and from the vendor specific, I just want to make sure that you're okay with us going ahead and talking about this some more in open session, because if you're going to talk on the specific names of vendors and then the prices that they quoted, then that becomes open, and I don't want to, put a cart before the horse if
you lay it on the table, it becomes open.
No, not if we don't go into it, so.
What's the projected life of this new system? I mean, the last one put in 2012, 14 years, what are we looking at?
I'd have to ask. I mean,
Is it gonna be obsolete in 3 years?
I don't think so, but
I mean,
technology's
obsolete in 3 days, so.
Technology's, advancing leaps and bounds, so who knows? This would just definitely be the newest and greatest stuff right now. I mean, we're not talking about parts that they've had in storage for 10 years. This is stuff that's new and I think having somebody local, especially if we keep a service agreement, I don't know if it would go down after the 3 years. That's something I'd have to just negotiate with them to, okay, what do we need to have in a service agreement after that? They are pretty confident that they can use, they don't have to rerun wiring and stuff like that because it was all, probably Cat 5 ran at the time. So the system they are showing, can be hooked into that.
I think with that kind of investment, we certainly want to make sure that that's going to be adequate for our next decade, at the least.
At least.
And basically, the old company, I had the service agreement, basically the only thing it covered was getting them here. They didn't require any components or anything like that had to be bought. It was just basically to get them here. And I thought, well, it was like $8,000 a year. Well, that's worth it if I gotta have somebody come from Alabama. That's gotta pretty much pay. If I could get them up here more than once, that's gotta pay for itself. As far as parts or anything like that, that was still.
1 year warranty, and then we'd have a service agreement.
On the one company, it's a 3-year, 1 year on your parts, but 3-year service agreement.
The service agreement starts immediately. And it's an annual cost of $21,365 from the one vendor. It includes programming changes, which are unlimited. The number of those is unlimited. Service calls are included. Labor and travel. After-hour support is included. Preventative maintenance, they have 2 semi-annual recertification visits included. They have a priority support for phone or remote support. They have training as part of they do 1 in-person training and up to 3 virtual sessions a year. Parts that are under warranty are covered. Parts that are out of warranty are charged at preferred pricing, which we don't know what that preferred pricing is. Ground shipping is included, and response time is indicated as a 1-hour response and then mobilization within 4 hours. And then, of course, it's a high cost, but we also know the cost up front. Risk level, low operation and financial risk, but the budget predictability is high. So if we went with an as-needed service, and this is just based on conversations that we've had with the staff there, right, Jim? I haven't had ability to confirm these numbers completely, but if you'd went with just an as-needed service for the programming, that could be, depending on how many times we would need them to come out, that could be a high cost. They were estimating like a programming changes could be up to $10,000. And that they're typically within the first year, that's when you would have the most while you're trying to fine tune everything.
What's up?
Right. So, he said it's typical 2 to 3 in the first year. And then service calls for labor and travel would typically be probably between $1,000 and $1,200 per trip. And that is if they send somebody out, they spend 4 hours here, they go back, and that's if they can fix it the first time. If they have to order parts, then they're gonna charge us to come back out and fix it another time. After hours support is charged based on an as needed, would just be $175 an hour plus travel, and it's more expensive for late night or weekend. There is no preventative maintenance. Phone or remote support would be billed hourly, and then training could be done, but it would be billed at an hourly rate. And parts that are not under warranty are charged at a standard rate, which is likely higher than preferred, but again, we don't have the parts list or the pricing, which we would potentially want to request. Shipping is billed to the county, and there's no guaranteed response time it's based on technician availability. So that's the difference between the service agreement and without the service agreement. They do not, one thing that they do not offer, They don't allow you to only have a service agreement on certain components of the system. They make you do the service agreement on the entire system, everything that's connected together. So that's not very flexible, which was a concern that I had.
What other systems do you foresee having to be replaced over there in the next couple of years?
As far as the jail side, that's it. I mean, the computer, like I said, the camera system was upgraded, 2021.
We do have some
which-
cameras that need to be.
We didn't replace all the cameras. We used leftover monies from the building, the tax on the building. We had some leftover monies left for that, so we used that to upgrade the system. Pretty much it depleted that fund at that time. We currently have a vendor that's doing the camera systems, here at the courthouse, doing mine. So we've already got somebody that's servicing those and, keeping us up to date on that system.
So we don't foresee any more six-figure replacements in the next.
Other things that.
Couple rooftop units go out, you're gonna.
I mean, the only other thing is the air conditioning units. We've replaced 4 of the units out of the 9. Knock on wood, we're not having any issues with the 5 that we haven't replaced. But they're on a little bit more of the non-busy areas of the building. We've got 1 left over the jail, but that covers mainly like the booking area, the holding cells, that kind of area.
How much were those units? I can't remember.
I think the last price we had, they were around $35,000 a unit for the big units. So that was the last. The first 2 we bought were closer to 30, but everything's went up. So.
And I have asked for a list, which I think Jim is putting
I'm
together,
working
of
on-
all of those systems, all of the air conditioning things and the, even
The other side,
appliances,
the
any
other
kind
side of that is just, be some appliances or water heaters,
I'm
things
talking
like that.
about big ticket stuff.
But big ticket stuff, this is HVAC and this control system is pretty much
Those are the
where my
biggest.
biggest expenses are.
It was cheap.
So you're looking to go out for bids for stuff?
He has gotten quotes
Yes.
on these, so, which we have that information, but I wanted board to decide how they
And
want
the
to
reason I
proceed before we present.
Kind of worked with these 2 companies. One's based out of Rose Hill and the other one's got an office in Wichita. We're based out of Nebraska and Wichita. So was the main thing I was looking for. I wanted somebody that could be here and work on something in a timely fashion, not
Be here the same day.
2 or 3 days, waiting for somebody to travel.
So how soon, if we approved that, how soon would they be ready to install?
We're looking at 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9.
And components are going up still, so we did learn from one vendor, I haven't heard this from the other vendor, I don't know if you have,
I've not.
but that there is a potential price increase
They had
after
one.
July 1.
One they had quoted a server and 3 months later it jumped $3,000. So
The pricing in that industry is really
Yeah.
unpredictable right now. Except, well, not completely, we know it's going to go up, not down.
So if we said we're not gonna do it, how long would it limp along?
no guarantees. I would probably have to get that company out of Alabama up here to figure out how we can get stuff running.
There's some areas of it that's not functioning now.
It's functioning, but we have 2 control stations, and one of the control stations is going down pretty regular. I mean, we're having to restart, and we're getting it back up. Lloyd comes over sometimes, he's able to work some magic on getting it, getting it at least where it's functional. But it's definitely starting to see a lot of issues, so.
How much cost do we have in them right now and just keeping them going? Last year, I'm not saying forever, last year, year and a half.
I'd have to get with Lloyd to see how many times he's specifically come over and
Basically,
worked on that.
it's been Lloyd's cost.
Yeah, Lloyd's come on. We have a spare computer that we bought years ago, but we can't seem to get it to function properly. So he gets components and puts in the old computer and is able to keep us going.
This is it's pretty critical infrastructure piece. I wouldn't recommend trying to limp it along. We really need to be looking toward replacing and upgrading it.
Did you think the 315 would cover it?
The 350 does include also the fire alarm panels. They're the same thing. They were put in 2012. They're obsolete. One of the companies the company that put that in, they actually have a specific laptop that they've kept to be able to program, because it was back on Microsoft 7, I think it was. They know they've got, I think, 3 places that have that, and we're one of them. And they can come in and reprogram and, get us back up. But like I said, it's those, you can't buy parts for them.
So the high end of that range that I put in here, that 315, it does include all of the required components, including the fire alarm panels, all of that.
The one company does all of it. The other company only does the control side, then I'd have to have a different company to upgrade the fire panel.
Which would potentially be the other company that would do all of it.
Right.
Over there.
Oh, nothing, my mind just keeps going back to we don't approve anything that we didn't have in the packet.
Yeah.
And that's fine. This is more for discussion.
I would like to propose that you give us a little bit more detailed breakdown next week of exactly what's being done, exactly what the cost of it is. Breakdown of the service agreements. I would like to have, some idea how long this is gonna last, and potentially do something that we can, I don't know if we can set money aside every year, a capital improvement fund in the sheriff's budget that in 10 years when this happens again,
That's what I would recommend doing.
they got a good chunk of money set aside already to.
On top of that, just not this replacement, but all the other
Right,
replacements.
exactly. We need that for not just the sheriff's office, but that would be a major one.
I'd like to know a little more about the financing. It says that under the phased funding, 3-year phased payment structure, that would include an additional fee of $4,000.
They're just calling it an administrative fee.
What about the interest?
There's no interest. That is, and it's just an administrative fee to stretch the payments. So that would be the full amount of
That's
the,
pretty cheap money right there.
Well, you're looking at 12, 14,000 all these purchases per year. The 300,000.
I got a few notes that pay off because it's too cheap.
I just, I didn't know if there was gonna be additional interest.
we checked into that.
So do we need to do something formal or just?
No, this was mainly, I knew that you probably wouldn't want to approve anything right away today. That's why I didn't initially give you the detailed information either with the vendor names, because you hadn't had a chance to review anything. So, but I would like to bring it back next week. We don't like to bring, like, when Jim told me he needed this, I just about had a heart attack. This is not something that you wanna hear about in the middle of a budget year. And so we've had some pretty extensive conversations about, let's not do this again.
And the sheriff was gonna be here, but he had another meeting at 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
So he
yeah.
this is last minute for him, so.
Okay.
Table to next meeting.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I've been hearing about it for a while. I didn't have any numbers.
Judicial, left us.
He's still sitting out there. Texting.
Good afternoon. While Nikki's handing those out, I'll introduce the individuals I've come with. Nikki Davenport is, of course, our court administrator. Courtney Parker is the head of court services. Stephanie Petrie is a court trustee and also the debt collection for the 8th Judicial District. And of course, one of the only clerks, not the only one, 2 counties? Yeah, the only clerk in the state of Kansas that has 2 counties. So we're very proud of Jan. I always like to brag on her. Not much to tell you this time. The servers was your big ticket item last year, and those have been put in and replaced. So those are out. That's off the book. So your percentage district-wise actually went down. You were at 15% last year, you went down to 13%. And your overall cost for 2027 looks like it's going down about $2,000, around $1,700 or something to that effect. One of the items that caused some of our costs this year is our IT person, Britt Graham, who we're just very lucky to have. He did not, it was my oversight, he did not get a COLA last year, he didn't get any raise at all. So this year, we're trying to give him 5%, which everyone, you would be responsible for 13% of those costs. Other than that, the big raise in the overall county, the Marion County budget has been for court-appointed counsel, as you can see, and that's just a nature of the beast there. But happy to take any questions if you have. I would tell you that Stephanie Petrie, Ms. Petrie, does the child support collection for 2 counties and the debt collection, or for 2 districts, judicial districts, and does the debt collection for 5 judicial districts. So we're very proud of Stephanie as well. And of course, her budget is there also, but the great thing about her budget is we tease her, she eats what she kills. It doesn't cost you a dime. It's a self-sustaining organism that does very well, thanks to her.
The reason for the jump in legal defense just because you can't get court-appointed attorneys, or they just won't accept what we've been paying them.
You were paying $75 an hour, and Judge Powers a while back had ordered the administrative order that any contract with attorneys that wasn't under contract, that was subject to call, which is what Marion County is. There's no contract here. In Dickinson County, in Gary County, there's contracts, and they have a set number of individuals that apply for that contract, and they agree on a figure, and that's what they're paid. In Morris and Marion County, we don't have that luxury. We don't have a set contract, so Judge Powers ordered that if you don't have a contract, you're paid $120 an hour, and that's just not plucked out of thin air. That numbers comes from Topeka. That's the bids number. So when attorneys are appointed on felony cases in the state of Kansas for indigent individuals, that's the amount that they're paid, is $120 an hour. which I can tell you from having numerous hearings, as far as attorney's fees goes, you're at about 33% of what the going rate is for attorney fees now.
I understand that.
Yeah, but your point's well taken also. We have a dickens of a time finding people. The public defender comes to Morris County, Erie County, and Dickinson County. The public defender does not come down to Marion County. And we lost the public defender that was running Dickinson. So now their office is shut down, so now we have to scramble now every week. If you have a carload of people that get nailed on 5 felonies, well, we end up quite often calling Topeka saying, we need attorneys, can you direct some people? It's not unusual to have attorneys from Kansas City coming out now. And that's why Zoom is so important, because those attorneys can, if they can do part of those hearings by Zoom, they're much more agreeable to come out and do the case. But your point's well taken. If you paid attention to the legislature this year, they passed that bill to help, just try to turn the worm. Right. Kids just don't want to come out. We have the best firms, one of the really good firms in Erie County, and even Salina, I was talking to those, they go up and they hold interviews at the law school. There's not one kid signing up for interviews. They don't want to come out west. And I don't consider us out west, but they do. And I think that definition used to be Salina on west, now I think it's Topeka on west.
And I believe also, just in addition to that, Judge Jan had an increase in jury trial expenses as well, so that plays into that figure.
And that's hard to predict.
You don't have the magic crystal ball either.
No. If I had that rascal, I'd be doing something else, I bet.
Staffing on that part is one of your biggest issues.
Finding,
What you're telling me.
yeah, finding attorneys is probably the biggest issue we have in this district and any district around us. We all tease each other because we rob each other's attorneys. For a while, we'll have a lot of attorneys coming up from Emporia. And then they'll get tired of doing that and they'll have to search elsewhere. But when I started practicing law, I think there was 17 to 20 attorneys in Abilene, Kansas. There's one now, and he's 84 years old. For all of Dickinson County, there's one attorney, not counting the county attorney. So it's a real problem. In western Kansas, the attorneys out there, the average age for an attorney in western Kansas, and that's Slime on West, is 65 years old. So I mean, that problem's gonna get worse, not better.
What are they doing, just kicking out corporate lawyers out of the law schools? And
Those kids don't wanna take the time to go out west. There's a great living to be made back here. There's good money to be made, but they just don't wanna come out west. That's why I think it's real important that if you're gonna do that, you need to start getting into the high school here. You need to start talking to kids here in the high school, getting kids that are from Marion, Kansas, or from Abilene, Kansas, or from Salina, and get them interested in practice law and coming back to their hometown and going to work.
Well, our county attorney has one in progress here for our county that hopes to go to school and come back here.
Good.
At the early age, encouraging her.
That's awesome.
We hope that pans out for the future. Our
Would it
best people are homegrown people.
Would it be helpful to the board if Nikki or Judge Sexton go over how these budgets fit together, or do you understand?
First one is the 10,000. Marion. And the next one is 24,369.
That's
I
your,
think-
that would be your portion of the overall, yeah.
So, but the first one is not, it's, the Marion, the county budget is the 228, 770.
That's,
So, yeah.
that's almost $19,000 that is directly reflected to attorney's fees.
So I just want to make sure.
And
That's a
that's
great
Jane's
point.
But the way their budgets fit together are kind of complicated, and so it's sometimes nice to have a refresher if you need it as far as how that all works.
I also don't want to leave here without thanking you folks for being so easy to work with on the grant that we received up in the courthouse for the sound panels and the projector. It's great to have partners like you folks that you're building, and I'm in great hopes that, you know, the traveling Wilburys that had all the great rock artists and Bob Dylan and Tom Petty and those guys, a Wilbury is a sound in it when you're recording studio that floats around, you can't tell it where it comes from, and that's what a Wilbury is. It's an English term, but we have all sorts of Wilburys up there in that courthouse. So we're hoping the sound panels take out those Wilburys.
As long as you got them on the ceiling.
Yeah. Not gonna,
You gotta hide the coos from the attic.
you know, Tina and I were right on when you folks came back and said not touching the ceiling, I said, that's perfect. That ceiling looks wonderful. And the hardwood floors, I said, you need to put carpet down. I said, I'm not going to anybody, I'm asking anybody to cover up hardwood floors, not gonna do it.
Well, did they start it yet?
No, we're to the point where we need to probably get somebody in there who's gonna do the construction on taking down the panels, and then we're lined up and ready to go. All the contracts are signed, we're ready to go. But thank you for doing that, I greatly appreciate it.
Any feedback or questions from the board?
Tina, I would just mention that second budget, the lime green tab, the district overall budget, it has all four counties, but like we were talking about, your portion is the $24,369. That budget there encompasses court administration budget, court transcription is the court reporters, court services, and then the judge's budget. And then that budget there is, that's where your percentage comes in of the 24,000.
And they said you were gonna help
Portion of that.
pick out the color of the panels?
I'm just gonna look at what you pick.
But the colors that the sack and draw out.
Like bright pink or something.
Dan probably wants, say purple.
Chartreuse.
So, and this portion is billed to us quarterly, I believe, and, I'll try to correlate that back to show you where that is in our line items when we go through our budget process. And there's really nothing that you need to do today with this. This is just for your information and.
Thank you for all the information.
Well, thank you for having us down, folks, always a pleasure.
Find some more grants.
Yes,
Keep on doing it.
yes,
Keep up the good work, I guess.
thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
you.
Well, keep Jan up to where we can brag on her next.
How's that light working for you, Jan?
I'd like to make a comment on the record, there's no discussion. But I've been watching the news the last 2 weeks, every night to talk about data centers being put in different places. I wanted you guys to think about taking a moratorium on data centers so people might look at us. Because there's lots of companies out there looking for places. At least to get us in the mix to see what's going on. Because right now, we don't get any information from anybody. And there's 3 data centers operating in Kansas, and there's 6 being built right now. And nobody knows how many people are looking for them. But I would think it'd be good for Marion County to get back in the hunt for the future. May not do anything for several years, but think about it. That's all I've asked. We'll move on to Brad now.
Sharon. Sharon. By way of an initial introduction in terms of this one, I had mentioned that we would do our very best, and I believe we can, do virtually all of this, or at least the majority of it, in open session so that the general public is fully aware of the views and policy statements that are arrived at. We have, over time, and not just this area, this will come up again in other areas, but the general process I thought might be very useful. Starting with primarily wind energy. Review some of the developments that we have in Marion County, and you guys are the policy setters, you gentlemen. Get some fairly express discussion about what we want to do in a number of areas. Things come up, and they come up repetitively regarding enforcement, regulation, what our internal processes are for planning and zoning, as well as heck, even the sheriff's department. And we have never stopped and really pressed a bit some of the fleshing out of the concerns of the board with instruction as to how we'd like to proceed. Staff, myself included, everyone else sitting at this side of the table, really work in terms of those policies at your pleasure. We can go ahead and attempt to utilize the regulatory environment that we currently have in place, but that doesn't necessarily always reflect what your opinions are and your concerns regarding those existing policies, and if they're being enforced in a way that you foresee as being appropriate, too strident, not strident enough, that sort of thing. Also, whether we are meeting, in your opinion as a board, the county standards that we've put in place regulatorily. We, obviously in terms of certain types of developments, for example, again, the one today like wind energy, we will get answers from them about this is what we're doing and we believe that we are in full and complete compliance. That isn't necessarily always the view of elected officials. So we wanted to start with a couple of things today, and I had specified at least an hour, and I suspect that's probably going to be woefully inadequate, but maybe I'll be surprised. And start with kind of an overview of some things related to planning and zoning and the regulatory system that's in place and what is being enforced, what needs to perhaps be looked at more fully from your perspective. Try to get a really clear picture from board as a whole. So that we have a better sense of whether we are really fulfilling the obligations that you have. You're the ones elected by the citizens to carry out the duties of the county. I've done this for many decades at this point, more than I'd like to think about. Health, safety, welfare is it. That's what we do. And all of those in a broad sense relate to a lot of these kinds of developments and what we do with them, how we do it, how we enforce, what we utilize to do so, and what your staff people see. So the biggest area and the one that's probably been most frequently raised in the last several years has been the wind energy projects, because obviously those have been the most active. Sharon, I think, put together, and I kind of, quite frankly, mirrored a lot of it, a significant amount of what we have in place to regulate at this point. And I guess what we'd like to do is kind of start from that premise that this is where we are, this is what we see. What would you like from the perspective of additional enforcement or areas of concern that require potentially concrete action up to and including litigation in certain instances to try to find a level of compliance that's acceptable to this board, because you are the be-all, end-all in terms of the county. So that's kind of the overview of what the intent of this is. Probably is going to, as I said, be raised multiple times in different meetings, but at least wanted to begin the process. I think Sharon was kind of prepared to do some of the initial questions and where things are from her perspective, from Planning and Zoning Board's perspective, some of which have been discussed with most of them, have been discussed with me over time. So I'm certainly prepared to weigh in on those as well. And we have several others that I'll probably take the lead on, but thought we'd start there because that's probably the broadest area.
Sure. Okay, so in looking at some of the issues that have been brought up, just the most common ones that we hear repeatedly from the board and from ultimately the constituents, I have three main categories that have been recognized, and I know there are more that Brad can speak to later. But the way I wanted to structure this today, just to get a start on this, is what are the issues, what is required based on the facts of the case, the regulations, the ancillary agreements, contracts. Are they compliant in those areas? And then what is the next step? What do we do from here? Okay, so one of the first issues that has been identified is noise. And I'll just start. The March 2018 Article 27 wind energy regulations were in effect at the time when the Sunflower Energy or Expedition Wind, now known as Sunflower Energy Center, was approved. And in the regulations in 2018, the requirement for noise was the audible noise created by the WEX shall not exceed 55 decibels at all times measured at the property line of any non-participating property within the boundary of the project. The turbines shall be moved or modified or removed and decommissioned from service if necessary to comply with this condition. Fast forward, this CUP was approved by resolution number 2019-11. It was approving a conditional use for a wind energy conversion system for certain lands located within the unincorporated area of Marion County under the authority granted by the Marion County Zoning Regulations, Article 12, 24, and 27. We'll take a look at each of those here in a minute. Specifically relating to noise. Audible noise created by the WEX shall not exceed 55 decibels unweighted at any time measured by the property line of any non-participating property and 50 decibels unweighted at any time measured at the exterior of non-participating residences existing at the time of this resolution, provided that the zoning administrator shall have the authority to establish that decibel measurements be taken based on a reasonable weighted decibel measurement determined by the zoning administrator to be an appropriate basis to assess and control relevant noise levels as they potentially impact neighboring properties. Further, along with the construction permit application, the applicant will provide Marion County Zoning Administrator with third-party sound data created by the WEX for all residents within a half mile of a turbine, which must demonstrate the projected compliance of the project with the sound restrictions. There's a letter dated July 26, 2019, which is the establishment of the decibel measurement. Under the authority granted me as zoning administrator in the above section of this resolution, I hereby establish that the A-weighted sound scale, known as dBA, will be applied to all modeled and measured turbine sound levels at property lines and residences. It will be modeled or recorded sound levels from the wind turbines shall not exceed 55 dBA at non-participating property lines and shall not exceed 50 dBA at non-participating residences. At the time of application, the developer provided a sound assessment provided by a company called DNV, which is a global quality assurance and risk management company. This is all within their application packet for that conditional use permit. At the time of construction permit application, there was another sound study generated that also had similar results. The effect on receptors has been quantified using the methodology described above, and the maximum value of sound at any receptor location was found to be 49.3 dBA. The maximum value for non-participating property lines was found to be 54.8 dBA. So do you want to go on to the next issue and then come back to what certain mechanisms are for compliance, or whether they're in or out of compliance?
I think I would do it issue by issue, just so that everybody's on the same page after it's fresh in their memory.
Okay. So for remedies, we have a couple of documents that control this conditional use permit and that land use. One being Article 27, wind energy conversion systems in our Marion County zoning regulations. If you look at number 27-109, the holder of any approved CUP for a WEX shall comply and remain in compliance with the terms of any agreement with Marion County. Letter B, the operations, maintenance, and monitoring requirements of the CUP. So that applies to this. Any failure to comply or to remain in compliance shall be deemed a failure of compliance with the conditions and requirements of the conditional use permit and subject to the WEX owner to potential fines and or revocation of the CUP of the said project. Article 12, Marion County zoning regulations. Plan approval guidelines. Number 12-107, remedies for noncompliance. The last sentence. If the approved development plan is voided, the planning commission or the governing body may initiate an action to have the conditional use permit revoked. Article 25, Marion County zoning regulations. Interpretation, conflict, remedies, and penalty. Remedies available. In case any building or structure is or proposed to be erected, constructed, reconstructed, moved, altered, converted, maintained, or any building, structure, or land is or is proposed to be used in violation of these regulations, the zoning administrator, county attorney, or other appropriate authority of Marion County, Kansas may, in addition to all the other remedies, institute an injunction, mandamus, or other appropriate action or proceeding to prevent such unlawful erection, construction, reconstruction, relocation, alteration, conversion, maintenance, or use, or to correct or abate such violation, or to prevent the occupancy of a building, structure, or land as authorized by Kansas State Annotated 12-760 and amendments thereto. I brought a copy of KSA 12-761. I'll spare you the time, that could probably be looked up. That basically says the same thing, that a city or county has the ability to enforce the zoning regulations that were adopted. Revocation after completion of construction for special use permits. So in order to revoke or suspend a conditional use permit that is in violation, you have to go back through the same process that it went through to get there. So that means that you would have to go back through a planning and zoning public hearing. And then at that public hearing, you would hear the facts of the matter, and then the planning commission would make a recommendation to the governing body, which is you all, and then you all would have the final determination and publish a resolution for whatever your decision is. Resolution 2019-21, which is the Comprehensive Development Agreement for this specific conditional use. Section 5.6, continuing obligation and forfeiture of the CUPs. Expedition Wind, which is now Sunflower Energy Center, acknowledges its obligations under this agreement are continuing in nature. The occurrence of an event of default may result in forfeiture and termination of the CUPs. Unless otherwise provided by law, the county may not terminate the CUPs for any event of default under this agreement if Expedition Wind disputes in mediation, arbitration, or litigation whether an event of default occurred prior to the resolution of such dispute. However, the county may terminate the CUPs for Expedition Wind's failure to provide or maintain security or to pay engineer fees as required under this agreement without limitation, provided the Expedition Wind fails to cure the default within 60 days of the county giving written notice to Expedition Wind of the county's intention to terminate the CUPs. The termination of CUPs shall not prevent either party from seeking any other legal remedies it may have under or as a result of the breach of this agreement. And then it goes into default, mediation, legal action, where to notice, whom to notice. So I guess those are the remedies available for a breach of an ancillary agreement, being the Comprehensive Development Plan, which was Resolution 2019-21, or the Conditional Use Permit, 2019-11. So I guess we can take a break there and have some discussion about that.
And just for clarification by discussion, I think it comes down to, and I'll broaden this out just a bit again. We have a road maintenance agreement. We have a comprehensive development agreement in both instances with regard to both of the wind developments, okay? They have similar elements for redress in them along with the statutory approaches that we can take. We have over time had concerns about everything from the ALDS type of system, noise issues, drainage issues, interference with certain types of other equipment like TV signals, simple maintenance with regard to roads and or the equipment itself, and all the ancillary pieces that go with that. We've got a CUP in place, and generally speaking, we make the initial contact each time with either or of the two companies that are involved. And thus far, neither of them have ever, in my experience, just simply said, heck with you, not gonna do it. They generally make some effort. The question becomes if the effort is sufficient. I know, for example, the ALDS system, it's been an extended period of time where it's been non-compliant in terms of it not working at the level that it should. Their response to that is that's an ongoing process that relates to some of the vendors, the technology that's available to them, and their underlying defense to it is, in due diligence, we're doing everything we can. That then comes down to what was mentioned as part of Sharon's kind of initial presentation. I have, as a county councilor, two options. Injunctive relief or a mandamus action. One is a stop doing something, the other is do something, okay? Both involve going to a district court, generally in the local jurisdiction, although there's some instances where that doesn't occur. It can be vacated to arbitration in some instances, but the end result at the bottom of the hill is litigating those kinds of issues. We continue to have some of these issues with these companies, at least from the perspective of the public raising them or members of this body raising them. And I'm not saying that's not legitimate. I'm asking at that point from a perspective of what do we wish to do? Do we start looking at taking the types of measures that involve litigation? Because otherwise, the question comes up and 6 months later it comes up again because we haven't resolved it. And that's just a matter of fact, an objective. So it comes down to this body directing staff as to what you'd like to see done and at what point you want those kinds of more aggressive measures taken.
So maybe that might be a good segue into the other two items, since we went over the issues, and that sort of thing. So let's talk about the next issue, which is interference with TV and.
Excuse me, let's circle back to the wind, to the sound.
Okay.
You indicated that on July 26, 2019, you got a letter from them saying that the projected decibel ratings were 49 or 54 point something property line and 49.
54.8.
54.8 and 49 point something.
Okay, so I think you're mixing two things. One was a letter on July 26, 2019. That was the determination of the decibel measurement, which is dBA rated. And then you were talking about the sound study from the third party.
And when was that completed?
That was April 30th, 2019.
So April 30th.
So before they were allowed to be issued permits.
So that was a sound study that was done before anything was put in.
Okay, because it was required with their application.
So my question is, in their conditional use permit, audible noise created by the WEC shall not exceed 55 decibels unweighted at any time property line, and 50 decibels unweighted at any time. What studies have been done since construction to verify?
That's what we want to know from you. What do you want to do about this?
If we have a landowner complaining about sound, we need to require the wind company to do a sound study and verify whether or not they're in compliance with this code. That's just what I'm asking.
So I have, whenever those issues have been brought up, and I know a specific turbine or like area, then I can go back to Orsted and let them know that we have an issue. And they've had Orsted, GE, and a company, I can't tell you off the top of my head right now. There was another company that went and took measurements at that location, as well as an investigation by the Marion County Sheriff, and it was determined that it was not out of compliance.
That's one, right?
Was it DNV? The company name? I had in mind, and that's what I'm showing.
Okay, that could be.
Anyway,
So going forward, if individuals, and my request was, if individuals have a noise complaint, do they contact you and you initiate that? I don't want the residents of Marion County to have to go to Orsted and say, I got a noise problem. Because they didn't write this. Marion County wrote this.
Okay, so the Board of Commissioners and legal counsel wrote that. The comprehensive development agreement was not written by the Planning and Zoning Department.
This, I'm talking about the conditional use permit.
Resolution.
Anyway,
That
Anyway.
was not written by the Planning and Zoning Department.
anyway, this is a conditional use permit issued by Marion County
Okay.
that falls under the jurisdiction of the planning and zoning administrator to enforce. Am I correct in that? I'm asking for that enforcement. If an individual comes to you and says, I have a noise complaint, I don't want that individual to have to go call, what's his name?
A hotline.
Tom Southard.
Is that what you're getting at? A hotline number?
Yeah,
yeah,
they shouldn't be required to do that. That enforcement of this cup is the duty of the county, of Marion County. It's not the duty of the private citizens. So I'm asking that when an individual has a noise complaint, or the other ones that we'll get to, that they come, if they call you, you are the one that initiates and follows through with ensuring compliance with the wind company.
Okay, and I can do that, and all the ones that I have received complaints from for specific issues in wind turbines, beyond just, I saw a light blinking out there somewhere, because that's kind of hard to pin down and regulate sometimes, alright?
They were all blinking last night.
I have to have
Have been
more
all week.
specific information than that, but all of the ones that I've been given specific information for, I have contacted them, they have investigated it, or I have went out and investigated, or the sheriff's department has went out and investigated it, and it was shown to be in compliance. So if it is out of compliance, I would let your board know. And then what do you want to do about it?
Well, first thing is, I mean, council, we need to have him authorize a letter stating that they're out of compliance. Give them the opportunity to fix it or remedy it.
Somebody should check it first. The sheriff has to check it first.
Well, I would
See if
say
it is.
if it's at that point.
Yeah.
So she's determined, hypothetically, she's determined that it is accurate. What do we do at that point? That's what she's asking. First step would be the more civil action.
Some type of legal notice of out of compliance.
Just
fine.
Just a letter from an attorney, basically saying, hey, it's square.
A letter of non-compliance.
Do we want to know who complains?
Well, I'd keep it. I mean,
That's
if it's
public
out,
record.
if it's out of compliance, it's out of compliance. It really doesn't matter who made the complaint.
And it is public record. I mean, if somebody makes a complaint about that and it's investigated, because they may be called to witness if that goes up the ladder to something more.
Or you have a record of it?
Right.
In case it's a recurring,
So if it's a noise complaint, who's doing the sound study?
So that would be Orsted, GE, and a third-party contractor.
How often are they required to go back around and check that? Like once a year?
I think they do that twice a year. I'd have to double
I
check.
think it's
on that.
semi-annual.
And then the spot ones, if there are complaints in particular, then they'll go check those as well.
Can we get copies of those?
I don't have copies of those, but
Can we get copies?
I think so.
The answer to that's yes. We just
I'm
ask for
asking for copies of those.
Okay.
Even if they've done them. I'd like to see the change over time as these age.
I was just gonna ask, you'd like them from inception, I assume, yes? Okay.
Oh, am I hearing you right, Sharon? There has been complaints turned in, we know that. They've been turned over and the appropriate authorities have stated that they're in compliance.
Right.
So,
No, what the discussion is though, just to get back on track, the discussion is hypothetically, there's a complaint. Complaint actually evolves to something that is accurate and true. What are our steps? What are our procedures that we want staff to do? So the first thing I would say was to have legal send off a letter saying you're out of compliance.
Right.
The next thing would probably be, how much time do you give them? You know, to make the correction or get back in touch with you or not blow you off.
well, normally when you would add, if you sent a letter out, you would put a time on there that you would expect to hear back from.
Yes. Well, actually, more than that. A time by which compliance is to be achieved absent good cause shown. So normally you're going to say, if it's reasonable, you've got to get this done in 30 days, unless you come before this board and indicate it's going to take longer than 30 days, and here's the good cause for that to take longer that I can bring before you, that I being this company.
Do you put another disclaimer in there that failure to do that may ensue further
Yes.
litigation?
That's where we're at today in terms of discussion. If you want, because historically, I have no desire to make that threat if we're not gonna follow through on it.
Right. That's why I'm just thinking that that's part of the letter that goes out.
Well, I think just to restore some faith in the public, I think that needs to be included in there. And to back it up, because sometimes it does feel like it gets blown off. Like there's certain times that there's been public uproar, and the simplest way to put it down would be to come in here and sit down and tell us their case, but instead they just stay away, and that just it comes off as avoiding it, or you're beneath us. We don't need to talk to you.
And there are several of these that we get complaints, we check it out, it gets taken care of. I mean,
Yeah.
some of those things I don't know that need to come to your board if it's been taken care of. So your board doesn't necessarily see all of the inner workings of what we do on a non-Monday afternoon.
That'd be called micromanaging you.
Exactly, I mean,
Yeah, but then it still would be nice for a brief report that those things did happen.
A heads up type of report.
It just validates that something is taking place, you know. Maybe we don't hear everything, but at least it validates,
It's being taken seriously.
yeah.
Yeah. I understand.
Are we doing both wind farms, seeing them both alike?
We have to.
Are we checking the one up north?
We have to, because we're actually talking about the north, aren't we?
No, we're talking about the one down here
We
because
have talked
it's been
about
the one that
Oh.
has been complained about. so-
Sunflower, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They'd be required to shut that tower down from turning until this was investigated or approved, if we've approved it.
That's
If
called.
there was
an
an issue,
So,
that we require it to not turn till it's resolved.
Are they required currently under the agreements? No.
Okay.
Can they be made to be, which is getting back to some of the initial questions? If we can substantiate and convince a district court judge that that's appropriate, the answer is yes, because that's the injunctive relief that I mentioned. You have two ends of the spectrum, injunctions and mandamus. Injunction stops someone from doing something, a mandamus and
Take a
action.
court action to make
Yeah.
them quit turning it
Yep.
or take it out of service.
Partially the
Take it out of
question I'm
service for a certain amount of time, till something's corrected or figured out.
okay, so do you want me to move on to TV and radio interference?
Yes.
Okay, so then the second issue that I recognized was radio and TV interference. Going back to the March 18th, Article 27, the regulations that were in effect when the CEP was approved. The WEX and its associated facilities shall not be operated so as to cause microwave, television, radio, telecommunications, or navigation interference contrary to Federal Communications Commission regulations or other law as to be occupied residential structures existing as of the date of the CEP approved by Marion County. In the event the WEX and its associated facilities or its operations cause such interference, the applicant shall take timely measures reasonably necessary to correct the problem. Looking at resolution 2019-11, which is the resolution that approved the conditional use for the Sunflower Energy Wind Project. They must have an agreement in place ensuring the county has adequate security to draw upon in order to cover the cost to mitigate material interference with any of the following systems during the first 5 years from the commencement of construction, which was June 17th, 2022. This includes 911 emergency radio systems, AM/FM radio systems, county communication towers, and county radar systems, including Doppler radar. Must not cause material interference with microwave, television, radio, telecommunications, weather, radar, or navigation contrary to the FCC regulations. We have a parent company guarantee from Orsted that was provided to the county for any type of interference remedies that can be used for that purpose. There again, their initial, the things that had to be submitted with their application as required by the county, their AM and FM radio report showed since no impact on the licensed and operational AM or FM broadcast stations was identified in our analysis, no recommendations or mitigation techniques are required for this project. I believe this is microwave. Yeah, we recommend citing the support towers with enough horizontal clearance to avoid the Fresnel zones, which before each and every turbine was permitted, it was checked against a Fresnel zone map. And any towers that would have interfered with those zones were either eliminated or they used the alternate site. This is also, the impact assessment was for first responder, industrial, business, land, mobile sites, area-wide public safety and commercial E911 communications. Each of these networks is designed to operate reliably in a non-line of sight environment. Many land mobile systems are designed with multiple base transmitter stations covering a large geographic area with overlap between adjacent sites in order to provide handoff between cells. So in the event that a public safety entity believes its coverage has been compromised by the presence of the wind energy facility, it has many options to improve the signal coverage to the area through optimization of a nearby base station or even adding a repeater site. Utility towers, meteorologic towers, and even the turbine towers within the project area can serve as a platform or base station for a repeater site. Networks are designed to operate reliably in a non-line of sight environment and are selected because of their ability to operate in dynamic environments with multiple redundancies. In the event there is an impact, this can be mitigated by installing signal boosters, extenders, or repeaters on the site. As it relates to wind farms, if necessary, installing it on an existing Met tower is a common solution. Telephone communications in the mobile phone carrier bands are typically unaffected by the presence of the wind turbines and do not anticipate any significant harmful effect to mobile phone services in the Kansas wind farm area. Since mobile telephone signals are designated to overlap between adjacent base transmitter sites in order to provide handoff between calls, any signal blockage caused by the wind turbines does not materially degrade the reception because the end user may be receiving from multiple transmitter locations. In the unlikely event that a mobile phone carrier believes their coverage has been compromised by the presence of the wind energy facility, they have many options to improve their signal coverage to the area through optimization of a nearby base transmitter or even adding a new sector or cell site. And then we'll move on to ADLS lighting. So no light shall be installed, March 2018 zoning regulations went in effect when the CUP was approved. No light shall be installed on the towers unless required by the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. If lighting is required, then only the installation of red lights shall be permitted. This restriction shall apply to infrared heating devices used to protect the wind monitoring equipment. At no point shall white strobe lights be permitted. As a condition of Resolution 2019-11, which is the CUP approval for the Sunflower Energy Center, says lights may only be installed if required by the FAA and must be red unless otherwise required by the FAA. Applicant will apply for an aircraft detection lighting system, and if granted by the FAA, such system shall be used. That's all I've got. So I think we've talked through some concerns about moving forward if there are non-compliance issues, how to reach out, what can be done about that, what the steps forward are. Do you have anything to add to that, Brad?
Yeah, in terms of one in particular, because it's been a fairly constant complaint for some time, the ADLS system. We continue, apparently, for those to be generally lit when the thought is they won't be. We're into the second year of that. The general response, I think, that comes to planning and zoning, and to me as well, is that they continue to work on that process. It's the best answer I can give. That there are issues in terms of the technology, and there are issues in terms of the hardware and software, I think, that have been raised. And that each time they detect a problem or that they see that they're just completely non-functional, they are investing and also spending time with the vendors that they're utilizing, and have changed vendors, I think, it's fair to say, several times to try to get better compliance. Still, the experience that the citizens have and what's being observed is that they're not functioning in the way that in the end you'd intend or expect them to. Question then becomes, what would you like to do? We're back to the same question with each of these. We can send some type of, again, the same discussion, some type of a letter saying, hey, this has gone on long enough. You've got X number of weeks, months, whatever, to bring this into compliance because contractually that's what we feel you're obligated to do. And if that isn't done, with, especially with a deadline date, back to the earlier question, do you wish to put this into a district court setting? Because I'm reasonably certain that they will contest it, feeling that they're making good faith effort. Getting into the particulars of what we do and how we do it, that probably is executive session because it gets into the underlying theory of the litigation. But in terms of the general policy statement with all of these, the question is, how aggressive do you wish to be?
We take it to court and they provide documentation that they're continuing to work on it. We're wasting legal fees.
That is one perspective. Yes, probably so. But I mean, again, it's a judge's decision in a case like that, and I guess you have to take into account exactly how aggressively you wish to pursue these kinds of things.
And then be consistent
Yes.
with any
Yes.
applicant or
Yep.
any.
And quite frankly, it gets into these broader categories in terms of whether if we've got interference. I know Tom mentioned at one point with the TV, and we feel we can prove that. Do you or do you not wish to spend the money, and it will get significant as a general rule? As you heard from Judge Sexton, what the hourly rates tend to be. It's not a cheap process. But that's at the bottom of the hill, that's what you got. Other than asking them to come, for example, you can do other things. We'd like to meet with the people who are in charge and the decision makers quarterly. You guys still have is it a monthly meeting with, people that do the day-to-day management? But that's not upper echelon management. We don't have any kind of an agreement that would compel them to do it, but we could ask them to come before you, getting back to what you said earlier, and say, well, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. This is why it is what it is. This is our explanation of it. What else do you wish from us?
I've had a few conversations with the NIL, which runs Diamond Vista or oversees it, which that's not required on theirs, but they have other projects within the state that have the same issue with getting them to work properly to this day, and are fighting that, not in Diamond Vista, but in other projects that they have within the state. Most of them over there, and I think it's around Iowa or whatever county that is one of the closest ones that was required to install that. And they said proper installation to get them all to correlate is an issue. It takes putting one wire or several in the wrong slot, and it throws just hard to diagnose and fix it. So it's ongoing in other places than just here on the Sunflower or Horsted.
It's currently a state mandate. I mean, all those other wind projects that don't currently have ADLS have to retrofit their wind projects with ADLS lighting. So that's going to be a compliance issue between the state, the FAA, wind companies.
So it's coming down the road.
It is coming down the road.
Yeah, they got, their lobbyists got a loophole in there, they don't have to comply with that until their power purchase agreement is renewed, so I'm not gonna be seeing that for 20 years. If you read the fine print of the legislation, that piece of legislation is garbage, but that's beside the point. So we don't have to worry about that for 20 years. This one, for them to say we're in compliance when they're not working is a flagrant disregard, in my opinion, of the county's authority, because this says an ADLS system shall be used,
Installed.
which, no, it doesn't say
Shall be used.
shall be used. Now, you can argue that they've got it in there, it doesn't have to work, but that's, to me, that's a Mickey Mouse argument on their part to avoid compliance.
The normal argument that gets used, not just here, is due diligence. We're exercising due diligence and attempting to make this system work. We've installed it, we've expended significant resources, and we continue to try to make it work. It doesn't. I mean, you generally won't. I can't speak for them in every instance, but thus far, it generally won't be a question of it works. You know, that's not the argument. It's more we're making the effort to make it work, and that effort is sufficient to pass muster. Is it still working? No.
No. It's hard to tell from a couple miles away, but you can't see everything from right up close. But I sat out Friday night and watched, and there were 3 turbines that the lights weren't blinking on, and everything else was blinking except the one dysfunctional light that stayed a steady faint red, that the light is actually broke completely, which I think is an FAA violation personally. But so some of them are working.
Yeah.
You would either, if it's working, if it's working and it's functioning, when it turns on, they should all be turning on, and when it turns off, they should all be off. Well, when you got 3 of them that are off and the other 70 some odd are blinking, obviously something's not working. Part of it is, part of it's not. You know, I've heard the excuse, well, this string is out and this string is out, and but this has been going on.
So that's why we're here. That's why we're here. We need to know what it is that you want us to do about this. How do you want to move forward?
Because previously when the question is asked, you make the phone call, get these responses. Okay, so then you're working on it, yes. So you're hoping, that's probably the operative word, to have this in functional status fairly shortly. That is our hope. Now, if you wish to take it a step further and say, hope doesn't get it. We need it working, and we need it working within, on the blank. Or the county is authorizing that it be taken to a district court.
What defines an ADLS system? What defines an ADLS? That's the kicker.
Yes.
That's the hang-up. That's what it is. Because the ADLS system could consist of the radar detection, and it's working. And then it could be with its transmitter, and it's sending the signal. It's sending the signal because you're not gonna hardwire everything. It's a radio. So it's working. Then you have a lighting control relay, and it's gone out. Is it part of the ADLS system, or is it not part of the ADLS system? What are the parameters? Because they're coming here and tell you all day, every day that their ADLS system is working.
They will say in use, installed, in use, and working.
Yes. So the parameters of the ADLS system is what is the unknown. If the relay, the receiving relay is part of the ADLS system, then the rest of it's just a hardwire issue to a bulb and a flasher. So those are the details we would need to know in order to enforce any policy, because otherwise it's just legal jargon.
And an element of this, candidly, doesn't exist. You're dealing with the technology and an approach that you have some court cases, but very limited very limited sources. That's why they call it a lawsuit.
So there wouldn't be many precedents
To
of
that point,
current jurisdiction on this matter is what you're saying.
There's elements, but not a direct
Not a
on
set
point.
precedent almost at this point, no longer than it's been out.
Ask me to define adverse possession and I can do that all day long and give you a room full of paper. Ask me to define an ADLS system and what it constitutes and what it means in terms of compliance.
so let me give you Orsted's definition of what an ADLS system is. From September 29th, 2023, Orsted's website. Orsted started operations with Sunflower Wind, blah, blah, blah. In addition to providing affordable renewable energy, Sunflower Wind will provide economic benefits to state economies. The project will utilize a new aircraft detection lighting system so that the nighttime lights on the turbines blink only when aircraft are detected to reduce light pollution for residents. That is their definition of an ADLS system, and they are not in compliance.
Just looked up, the ADLS actually stands for Aircraft Detection Lighting System. So the light is part of the ADLS.
Yep, no argument with any of that.
Which comes back around to the question. What are we going to
2 months to get in compliance with a fine start.
Secondary question. You said it, or the fine start. That's not the same as an injunction that says you just stop doing business. Now that one I can guarantee they're probably gonna spend whatever it takes to fight us on.
I figured the fines would be supplemental. You make it hurt, they'll get something done. They'll get tired of paying the fines and they'll go fix it. I don't want them to go away. They're here already. They do provide a couple jobs that, I just don't think we should get any more of them. I think this is crazy.
we're just trying to, these issues just keep coming up week after week after week after week. And we just need to know what your board wants to do about it.
What authority do we have when it comes to fines?
Which says it right in the CUP, doesn't it? Doesn't it have a $500 or something per day?
Yeah, there's the ones,
There's a Article 25 in our zoning regulations. You can impose a $500 fee per occurrence per day.
Per day?
Per violation. So
That's what I'm saying.
each tower per day.
It'll add up quick enough that they will fix the problem.
Sorry, that one specifically does not say $500, but we do have it in our. That is in KSA 12-761. Any violation of any regulation adopted under the authority of this act shall be a misdemeanor and shall be punishable by a fine of not to exceed $500. It says and imprisonment, but I don't think in these cases we can enforce imprisonment. I think that's.
So you're talking about one fine of $500,
No.
not $500 a day.
$500 a day per light.
You also have to have.
Each system is not working.
But it also has to be a misdemeanor charge, so that you'd have to go through that process to get it be deemed a
So
misdemeanor.
you still have to go through the district court.
yeah, oh yeah.
Any way you look at it.
But when you have a noise pollution and you have an FAA violation on your side, on both all of it, I mean, it gets harder to fight that. fix it. I said my 2 cents, it was probably too much.
How much time do we wanna take to pursue this too? I mean, it takes labor upward. Do we need to hire more people? Enforce that? Sure, I need 2 more people in the office. Isn't that? Well,
Right now, I'm down in staff, actually. I'm trying to hire.
I mean, any individual, you take a picture and you can count the lights on this one. And then,
it takes time and labor.
then if you have, so you have the FlightAware, basically app on your phone. You open up the FlightAware, you realize there's no flight there. You screenshot that, you turn the camera up, and you take a picture of the lights and you turn it in as a report.
I've asked, they got records from day one of the operational status of every light in it. And I've asked for that. Every tower. I've asked for that information. I've never gotten it. The point is, my perspective, we need to send them a notice of violation that they're out of compliance with CUP 2019-11 pursuant to section H. They're not compliant with the ADLS system. And I don't know, give them 30 days to get it in compliance, and if not, we'll start fining them for every light that blinks every night. I mean, their very words. September 29th, 2023, we've installed this system. We're gonna clean up the night sky. That's almost 3 years. 2 years and 9 months. 2 years, 8 months. Should be ample time to, and they didn't really start working on it till I started complaining in February. Last year. But I don't know, that's my personal opinion, it's up to the rest of the board.
I said 60 days, you said 30 days, we're not that far apart.
That Brad might be looking for input from
Consensus.
everyone
Yep.
and a consensus.
Or I can draft something and bring it back next week and you guys can say, yep, that works great. Or you can tell me right now, that's what we want to do, is send something out consistent with what's being discussed. But it's a board decision, or at least a consensus, so I have something, and I have the authority to do this.
Regulate little kids and where they can shoot off fireworks, but we can't hold a company to.
The reason for taking
account.
the time we are today is to get,
I don't wanna poke the bear, they're a good neighbor, and they support jobs in Marion County. They also do lots of other things that we never see. We donate to things. There's a good income tax base. And lights don't hurt anybody. In my personal opinion.
I didn't move out to rural Marion County to look at 14 red lights blinking on the horizon every night. You live where you live, you probably can't see them.
No.
Yeah.
So you have nothing to say about it. You don't have to look at them.
I'm a
I
Marion
get to
County
see all
resident.
140 of them from my house.
taxpayer and we live in Marion County and have a business and I employ 50 people. So I have a big stake in it.
Yeah. I'm not gonna disagree with what you had to say, Dave. I mean, they do have,
They do a lot of good
they have some things and they do some things. But
and they're working on it.
health, safety, welfare goes back to that. And if we're gonna regulate little kids and where they can shoot off fireworks, we damn well be able to regulate companies and doing the right thing.
Aren't they working on it? I mean, they're trying to,
It's
and
been forever.
the third party,
If I got away with that, man, I could work on it. And
I think we can be civil with a letter that has enough teeth in it that we'll know if they're gonna do anything or not, and if they don't, they have to pay a fine.
all I'm saying is if the fine gets real, then it's, you know, if they start paying the fine, then you know how hard up they are in fixing the system. Because otherwise they wouldn't pay the fine. Fixing the system would ultimately be cheaper.
Maybe.
Well, over the course of time, in the long run.
and they take money away from our payment. The payment set that we get each year.
The payment is set. It's not actually, pilots are limited in enforcement, but,
In the beginning,
there's
they all
nothing,
took it back to fix the roads.
there's nothing in there that would say that us asking them to comply with a specific portion of that would reduce anything. That wouldn't change. Correct. I mean, there's,
They'll pay the fine, but then they take it away over here.
I don't know now.
We had to pay for roads up north. They took money away from us.
There was something in there on that one, on engineering. That was a hole that got dug by something else.
We got lawyers to find stuff like that.
Him and I are in a consensus, I don't know. Can't, you got Mike.
I don't think it hurt anything to at least let them know that we're still concerned about this and it's been going on for 2 years or more, whatever it is. If they can't comply with it, they need to come in and tell us why. I don't think that's asking too much from, that big a company. But, I know for one thing, when you start threatening a company that big, it's your attorney against a whole bunch of them.
We're not gonna win.
Yeah, but I keep going back to that because it's an FAA violation.
Well, I think.
So all of a sudden, no longer are we sitting alone in the room. This goes bigger.
Well,
and then all of a sudden, they are dealing with somebody that they don't want to deal with.
They want us to forget about it, and that's the worst thing that we could do. So it's best to keep them in front of their eyes.
Brad, how hard would it be to get with FFA opinion from them at this point?
The FAA?
Yeah.
Phone call. I mean, you're basically contacting a regional office, saying we got a concern, we got a problem. Now, how long it takes them to respond is another matter. But
I mean, is that not a bad place to?
There's nothing wrong with doing that as well. The direct civil relationship between us and.
I would go nuclear at that point.
Yeah.
By the time you called Wichita, and by the time that got to Washington, by the time they corresponded to you, you got another year gone.
They want the lights on, FFA.
Well, the ADLS system is something they've endorsed, but. Letter yes, letter no. Letter. Okay. Anything else today? we have others, but it's gonna,
We'll just keep dealing with them as they come, I guess.
okay. 3:30.
Right on time, Brett.
Yeah, well.
If you look at the agenda.
I think we'll use this time, I see Mr. Mueller is here. One of the others that we need to deal with are conflict of interest, when it exists, if it exists, how it exists, and how it's addressed. A different topic, I sent out a supplemental, but really just for reference, that I had done after some additional information was provided to me. And so I wanted to discuss that one a bit today as well, because again, it's a policy matter. What I sent to you that you can reference later on and read at your convenience is what, in terms of the various people in any setting within the county that serve on a sanctioned board or entity, commission for the county. And this holds true in any governmental setting, because they are in essence an agent of you. What I want to say up front is there are certain instances in which people can be automatically disqualified from continuing to serve. Those are limited. Well, they're broad, but they are still limited. For example, you have to maintain certain statutory qualifications of office, meaning in most instances you can't be a convicted felon still on parole. Okay? Once you're off, you've been restored to full status and you can serve. Loss of required residency. You have someone who moves completely out of the jurisdiction, they can no longer serve. Those kinds of examples are automatic disqualification. But they're a pretty bright line, they're fairly well defined, and they're in the statute. The rest of it comes down to a policy matter, and it comes down to some things that I gave you in a previous document. And I'll just paraphrase some things that don't necessarily reference that communication. You can establish standards as to what you wish for people to either possess or not possess in the way of interests in order to be able to serve in certain circumstances. And even if you do, you need to be very clear that that may only disqualify someone, very similar to when we have warrants, bills, and Western Associates or Elcon have a bill outstanding. What do? You withdraw from that and don't vote, and that's perfectly appropriate. Everybody has an opinion. Whether you're sitting up here, it's part of the reason you ran for the office. I have an opinion, I just keep quiet about it most of the time because I'm the scrivener. But those opinions do not disqualify you from continuing to serve unless you develop a substantial interest in a particular endeavor that is part of what that particular entity, whether it's this board, planning and zoning, or something else, is directly dealing with and regulating. Then it does trigger a condition precedent that someone will not, perhaps, in those instances, if it goes far enough, will not continue to actively engage in that particular agenda topic, if that makes sense. It does not disqualify them from continuing to serve unless you decide, you know what, there are certain areas where if these people have this kind of involvement in their business relationships or in their financial interests or whatever, we don't want them to serve. And that's dicey, because most people have the ability to exercise their rights as a citizen within the jurisdiction. You can choose to say, just don't like it, not going to vote to approve them. That's your call. But that's basically being done periodically when people are appointed. And I have received concerns about a set of circumstances that don't rise to the level of automatic disqualification. You can make an argument that someone might recuse themselves as it relates to one particular activity, and even then, it depends on the circumstances under which that arises. If what they're doing isn't related directly to that particular activity, it's more of a pervasive, overarching kind of a regulation, it doesn't generate a conflict of interest either. But what I wanted to get to today was, there are those concerns. If you want to discuss them, now's the time to do it. And if there are questions about, well, what rises to the level of something that is in fact actionable, I'm happy to answer that too. I've tried to go ahead and do the legal survey, both in an original document that I considered as privileged as legal advice, and a second one that supplements that and gets a little more specific.
So, just being on city council and then here, I've always taken it as direct financial gain.
Yes.
In some form. Is your conflict of interest.
And statutorily in this state, $2,000 or more is kind of the.
So good experience was when the administrator, Larry Payne, made me take a vote on a street in front of my house, and I wanted to abstain. And he told me I needed to grow a backbone. Because here I'm gonna be voting, yeah, let's go ahead and put a brand new street in front of my house. But I didn't have any direct financial gain from it.
Correct.
But he did say it gets cloudy when I start to get involved with the engineering. If I wanted to get involved with how the engineers were going to design the road and make this a fabulous diamond road, then it would in turn directly give me financial, because that would actually increase the property value more than just a standard street. So,
And it gets more complex depending upon the entity upon which you're serving. If you serve, for example, on planning and zoning, and you're convening as the Board of Zoning Appeals, you're quasi-judicial. No judge in this state is supposed to prejudge a case, so they don't come out and announce, I think this person is guilty as heck. Same thing as, I don't think I'm gonna go along with the variance in this particular instance, because I just don't like the activity involved. I've had that happen in other jurisdictions and gotten asked that question, and yeah, is that a conflict? Yeah, I think it is. So they're case by case, and they're somewhat involved in terms of the analysis, but the general rule doesn't change. Disqualification for disqualification's sake is really just a very limited number of statutorily defined reasons. Everything else just comes down to, you've got people serving for you on different settings in different elements of the county that have very definitive opinions about certain things, how this county should grow, what its complexion should be, how much should it be agriculturally flavored versus industrial or residential. What do you do out at your lake? You know, those kinds of things. That does, because they have an opinion, doesn't necessarily disqualify them. And I'm not arguing one way or the other. I want to be really clear here. I just want to be able to resolve some of these things because I think they're legitimate concerns that people raise because they're interested in knowing.
So just keeping things evenly handed, sometimes you have individuals that have a really, really good hold on a certain industry. And just because they're involved in that industry doesn't mean they're going to directly profit from it. They may develop something and then they win a bid and then they may directly profit from it down the road, but there's so many other elements, it doesn't guarantee them the direct profit of it. So why would you want to disqualify somebody that can bring that knowledge base, especially to our rural county?
I think all of us have instances, we appoint planning and zoning members from our districts, and it's not easy to get people to serve on that. It's very difficult. You want dedicated, you want competent people. They're not making any money, they get paid crap. But you've got to find some of those, and a lot of those people are agriculture based. They've got business interests in maybe 3 or 4 different things. And, I mean, they're probably gonna, at some point in time, they're gonna have to recuse themselves from some vote on a CUP. Because, I mean, we've got farmers, we got ranchers, we got oilmen. I mean, we've got industries embedded into agriculture. How many ag guys out there are now running commercial hunting operations? Anybody think about that? That's actually a pretty big business in Marion County right now, and they're administered right there from the home ranch.
Or you got somebody on planning and zoning that regulate with feedlots. They've got one of them on of their own. You don't directly profit from it. But,
You'd still have to recuse yourself because people would see that might be a form of beneficial interest.
That's what you should do when in doubt.
So I think, if I can interject here, I think, Kent, you hit that on the head though, where you said a CUP. So there are 2 different issues that I think some people neglect to see. One is a text amendment to a zoning district, which is an overarching regulatory set of standards, compared to a conditional use permit, which is for a particular parcel or parcels. So if someone has a direct interest in a particular parcel or that particular business, that may be a time to announce that you may have a conflict and potentially recuse yourself. But if you're talking about the overarching regulations for an entire district and the text amendments within that district, we wouldn't be able to have anyone on the board. Because if we talk about lake lot regulations, no one from the lake can talk about that. If we talk about data centers, then someone who's been in a data center field for the past 30 years can't talk about that. You know, it becomes what are we talking about and what is their actual involvement in it? And is it an overarching regulation that has the entire unincorporated portion of Marion County, or is it this specific parcel and this specific land use?
I guess the point that I want to make is, I was thinking through this to make sure, there has been an instance where each and every one of the current sitting members of this board have contacted me with a concern. I intend fully in every instance to try to address those concerns. And I want to make sure I have. And there are instances where I don't come up with a recommendation to take certain action because I can't find it in the law to do so. That doesn't mean your concern isn't valid or that there isn't some reason for you to articulate it. But a lot of the time I also want to know, well, what do you want out of this? And if it's, I feel like I have a significant enough concern that I don't want a particular person serving, then I'm going to look at that. And there's 2 ways that can happen. One, they automatically are disqualified. And generally that's very difficult because most people aren't going to meet. I moved out, I left, I'm gone. Most people will voluntarily quit then. But you have other reasons that are pragmatic or policy in nature for what your concern is. Then it comes down to back to what Sharon and I started today with, guidance from you. If you look at that and say that's serious enough that we as a group want to raise that issue, we want to discuss it, and we want to turn to you and say, find a way for us to remove someone from a particular activity within the county because we feel like we made a mistake, okay? Then you tell me that. But that has to come from all of you. And I say that with all due respect to each and every one of you, because I have yet to have anybody call me without some legitimate concern. I understand why I got the phone call. I understand why I got the communication. There are just, in most instances, limits to what I can do, And even then, only if the consensus, well, count to three. Three of you have to tell me that's what I want you to do. I may still not be able to do it. But then I've been given the appropriate direction to do that.
I'll stick with what I originally said. That's my feeling. Direct financial gain.
So does that direct finish? I guess my take on it is when we're you made a comment and I saw it once, but I can't find it again. And I think Joni, you mentioned, well, why don't we just ban any future wind developments? And Brad, your comment was, we can't do that without impacting the current wind company's abilities
To expand.
to expand. Okay. So, taking that premise, then anything we do, Article 27, that impacts the existing wind company's abilities to expand or continue. I mean, technically, if they have a wind turbine go down and they don't replace it with the exact same thing, they have to get a new cup. And that has to go for
The entire process.
the entire process. Because that cup is very specific to what they put up, and that they can replace it if it's damaged, but my understanding is now they're looking at 700-foot towers because these 500-foot towers are no longer available. So my point is that anything we do with Article 27 is directly tied to the existing wind companies. Because at some point, it may not, but at some point it may impact the ability of those wind companies to continue their operations. Now, no disrespect to you, Mr. Mueller, on January 29th, 2026, you said, I've got wind leases, and I've got a copy of that wind lease right here. But I'm no longer a liaison, and I don't have wind turbines on my property. But when I look at the county parcel search, you're paying for commercial taxes for David P. Mueller, 3441 Mustang Road, zoning permit 18-1897, 1874, and 1899. So do you have wind turbines on your property?
Can I take the seat? Can I answer?
Can I ask one question though first before David comes up here? So we also have an ag district. If we make text amendments to an ag district, which everyone in the agricultural district has some sort of agricultural income, then are they allowed to involve themselves in that discussion as well? Or they have to recuse themselves? Because it will affect them financially, one way or another.
Then they probably should recuse themselves.
And I don't know why we have a planning commission.
Well, my point is, if there's not a financial, why would you say that you don't have wind turbines?
Okay, first of all, you're completely mixing everything together. Text amendments on one side, conditional use permit application, other side. As Sharon was trying to explain, text amendments are for the overall operation of the policies of the county. You want to get as many diverse opinions as possible into that process. Okay, CUP, that's where your financial interest comes into play. If there's a conflict of interest, And that was the case, which the story that's often told is how Diane Novak had to recuse herself. That was because it was a CUP. It was not a text amendment. It was a CUP because her husband was financially gaining from that directly. If he didn't want to financially gain, he didn't have to sign the agreement. But he chose to do that. That was a direct financial gain. So let's go back to your specific question about the planning and zoning record of proceedings. There's actually 3 mistakes in that record of proceedings. The first one is Josh Weiser says he's required by state statute to ask for conflict of interest. That is not true. He's required to ask for conflict of interest on the CUP. That was a text amendment evening. There were no CUPs that evening. So that's incorrect. Second thing he said, when he asked me if I was the landowner liaison for Diamond Vista in Dickinson County. Diamond Vista's in Marion County. It's not in Dickinson County. Okay, should that have been corrected? So I got the accusation. I went back and I listened to the recording because I couldn't figure out where the no, because I never said that I did not have turbines on my property. I have leases, and that's all I stated at the meeting. So if you get back and listen to the recording, he asked the question of, am I still liaison? I said no. And the specific, you're looking at your copy, I'll look at mine. He asked if I'm still employed. My answer on the recording is no. I have leases, but am no longer liaison for the company. None of the text amendments being discussed would affect those leases. That's the end of the quote on the recording. Unfortunately, the record of proceeding shows an additional statement, does not have any wind turbines on his property. That recording does not reflect that statement. So I did not state that I did not have turbines on my property.
I just don't know why you didn't correct that in March.
Because Russie, he wasn't there and it was a very hostile crowd. And then how do you correct the other 2 mistakes?
We correct mistakes on agendas, or on minutes all the time here, so, and you've corrected minutes as a commissioner. I'm just going by.
Okay, next.
What was said, what was recorded.
In the written report.
In the written minutes.
That's correct. And I actually brought it to the attention of some people, but again, at the meeting, Russie, who is not there. Well, obviously there's a lack of respect in that room, and so I did not bring it up.
I would disagree with you there. Well, maybe not, but Russie has he has nothing to do with approval of minutes.
He would have explained the difference between the text amendment and CUP, which several people in the room won't listen to anyone else.
I would still argue that
I know you
wind energy development is a unique situation. I appreciate that you're passionate about wind. That's your prerogative. You know, you went to Dickinson County, and again, maybe Dickinson County got it wrong too. When in June of '24, when you were there, and they have you as a Diamond Vista liaison.
As a former liaison.
That's not what it says. It says Mueller. Following notes are submitted by Commissioner Edstrom, Mueller, Diamond Vista liaison, 100+ landowners, 95 towers, blah, blah, blah. The one question, where do people go if they have issues? They either go to the project manager or they come to me. So it's confusing. And you were a commissioner at that time.
So, to your comments, first of all, I was asked to be there. I went as a landowner and former landowner liaison. Never once in that meeting did I mention I was a county commissioner. Never once. Never once did I make any statements. I said I was there to answer questions. And the only speaking I did was in answering the questions that were raised. And the other former commissioner has been there quite often at her own insistence, not at the invitation of the planning director. And so coming back to your comment about my passion, the reason I support WIN was because I was landowner liaison. I was actually there, my job was to be the conduit between the landowners and the company. Landowner has a complaint, landowner needs something fixed, landowner has an issue with reclamation, they came to me, and I took it to the company to get it fixed. So if the company didn't get it fixed, I was the one on the hook. And I wanted to make sure that the person in that position was going to be there after the project was completed for that very reason. If I didn't take care of those landowners, I had to live in that community. It's not someone from Texas comes in and then takes it. And that's part of what I got to see was how the company treated every one of the 135 landowners, how they resolved every one of their issues. And believe me, there were issues. Since we had over 100 inches of rain that year, it was quite the mess to reclaim. And it took 2 years. But once it was completed, every single landowner signed that they were satisfied with the reclamation. As far as following up, yes, I do still have landowners still call me and ask, okay, I've got this issue. Well, I'm a neighbor. I'm going to tell them where. This is who you call the site manager. That's how you do it. I don't get paid for that. That's what you do if you're a neighbor. You're there to help your neighbors.
I'll comment on, I was even appointing you back on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm not looking for the right word I'd almost call it a discreditment to my ability to put you on there knowing what you know from the past and recall, guide me with my questions, which you have done well. And talking with some of the Diamond Vista's best people, what our best interests are, their other concerns, and I've been highly agitated, irritated with some of the comments opposed against you just because I appointed you.
I appreciate it.
And at one point, I thought I was going to lose you on that commission. Some of what went down that just a few days before the last filing was as simple as Sharon being just on Zoom or not in the office that morning to clarify one potential person. Once we missed the deadline that morning by a few minutes or a few hours so I never turned his application in even though we had it. So, but he wanted one last couple of questions and it wasn't available and it's just the luck of the draw. But there is a reason I entrusted you to be on that commission. You've been there. You've been in my seat before. We were enemies at some point. I think we've resolved any of that. In the first year and a half of being on my commission, I think we have positive things to still contribute to our community, especially on the north end of the county. And I respect you staying on yet at this point. So I thought I needed to say something just on that point alone.
I have never, in my wildest imagination, wanted you kicked off the Planning and Zoning Board, David. That's.
So why all the attacks?
My only concern is that you financially benefit from wind.
I have a lease, just like an oil lease. It's an energy lease.
And that lease has stipulations on it, and I know what your memorandum of lease says. And my question is, with those leases, can you be impartial?
The reason I am partial is because of the treatment of the landowners. As many landowners have told me over the years, it's not the lease money, it's the roads. The roads are the greatest benefit to that project. We've got phenomenal gravel roads up there that we never had before. And landowner after landowner has told me how much a difference those roads make. It's a benefit to the community. It's not my financial gain. It's the gain to the community. It's the gain to the county. It's gonna be phenomenal in another couple of years when that comes on the tax rolls. Absolutely phenomenal. In addition to the pilot payments already being paid, $270,000 to the county and $90,000 to 2 school districts per year with no cost. One of the things I've learned as a commissioner is the most expensive cost to the county is a rural residential house. You're paying for gravel to that house. You're having to provide sheriff's service. You're having to provide fire service. The schools are providing bus service. So if you're paying, the exercise is $2,000 property tax on that house, half of it goes to school districts, another half of it goes to the county, so that's $1,000. 1/3 of that goes to your road budget. So that's $330. How much gravel does that provide on a half-mile road? For maintenance, or culverts? Here you've got a commercial business that comes in, no cost to the county. They fixed the roads. They provided the roads. You are no longer, the other additional costs you have for the others aren't there. What is the cost to the school district that's getting the $90,000 per year? Marion County's in a tough spot. And it's interesting that commercial industry or commercial projects which can provide financing to the county are the ones that are being fought. Again, and I've said this from day one, there's areas they're not appropriate, and that's where planning and zoning comes in. But planning and zoning shouldn't be made up all of one group or a majority that are on one mailing list, and the rest of the planning commission is cut out. I think there's a real problem there.
I don't think you got the majority of the planning and zoning are not on any mailing list that I use.
Really? Do I get a copy of that? You ask for copies all the time. Can I get a copy of your mailing list?
I'm not gonna divulge.
I didn't think so.
I can tell you who's on planning and zoning that I mail to. Josh and Brandy.
There's a lot more than that.
And Evan.
And
That's it. I don't send.
okay. Well, I've taken enough of your time. I think we've beat this issue to death. My fate's in the hands of the majority of the commission. But I would ask you to keep your road commissioner in line. If another attack comes, I will return. The only reason I came a couple months ago was because of your attack. Because I do not want to waste county commissioners' time. That's the only reason I was here. Anything else?
I have, I'm just.
All right. Good luck. Thank you for your work for county. Good luck with the budget.
My thanks, Mark.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Dave, for your info. I mean,
Thank you.
I've taken enough time today.
Leave for supper. Whoosh.
Okay.
Policy discussion that I added to the agenda. 10 minutes.
I'm sorry, yes.
Last week we had TDDO come in. And was told that we we don't approve those. 2 weeks before we approve the Marion County Conservation District, on February 2nd, Families and Communities Together came in with a budget request. I'm kind of confused. On the agenda, it was marked the 2026 allocation. And so my question is that the 2026 allocation, or is that the 2026 request for the 27?
The one in February, I think they were just coming in to request the funds that were allocated for the 2026 budget year.
Okay. So those two, we approved those in October in the budget. So
Yes.
I was just confused why we approved them again in February 2nd for FACT and February 17th for the food bank.
So typically what has happened in the past is you would have all of these entities that come in and they ask for money. And the way the budgets have been prepared in the past is we have included those in the draft budgets. As we go through our budget discussions, then the board adopts a budget at the end. But we don't necessarily, we've always asked for, well, in the last, I don't know how many years, for clarification and separate approval of those allocations as a motion and a vote after. Like, just because something is put in the budget document doesn't necessarily mean that you've all voted to approve it as far as paying it out. Just like if we put, it's just been an extra thing that we have typically done.
Multi-purpose building courthouse.
Right, we put that in the
Put it
budget.
in there, but we have to take votes to spend money out of there.
Right,
For
and
different things.
right, so and like on our personnel line items, you know, if there's, we figure a budget, say we put a 3% cost of living in the budget. Okay, that's a budget, an item that's in the budget, but we don't move forward with that 3% without additional action of the board. So the budget document is a guideline, and we have just requested that you actually take a vote on those allocations. And in regard to the extension or the conservation district budget, what I said last time was that the commission has done it different ways over the years. That budget allocation has stayed steady. Commission has, sometimes in the past, they have voted on it on the day, but typically we don't. Typically, we wait and do it as part of the budget discussion. Either way was not incorrect. That's what I was trying to say at the time. But if you're moving to a process, you want to be consistent. So I didn't want, we've never done that for all of the board has never done that for all of those kind of requests on the day that they presented. But the conservation district has been inconsistent. The board has approved those in the past. Sometimes they do it on the day and sometimes.
Also to add to that, I think it was the beginning of the year, we provided a list of these allocations and you guys approved which ones and how much.
Right.
And you did not hear from FACT or Food Bank, so that's why you asked for them to come separately. And then you approved it.
Yeah.
Some of those entities don't have their own line item in the budget. I mean, that stuff's embedded within a general fund. So.
It's under, and most of those allocations, that's correct. We pay several of those social type of allocations out of sales tax, which is in the general fund. So it's just a little bit of confusion, and I just didn't want us to get on a roll of, like, every time somebody come in, yes, we're gonna approve it, because we haven't even looked at the budget as a whole. So it wasn't meant to, as anything, it wasn't an intentional misdirection, and it wasn't, me trying to treat someone different on one hand than the other. I didn't want us to get started down that road before you've had a chance to look at the budget overall. And as far as the conservation district, as I said, sometimes the board has done that on the day and sometimes they haven't, but it was always my understanding that that was a statutory allocation, but I don't know that it is. I have to go back and research it now because I've never had anyone ever question it. And it's just always been, ever since I've been here, so that's all. So.
I think I'm probably guilty of that too, because I thought maybe that was a statutory thing since it's been approved on that day, since the day I got on the commission, and must have been for several decades before. If it's not, it'll be better to wait. But I don't, it's just one of those things.
Right.
They come in with their whole board every year, talk to us. And, there was some good questions this year that maybe there hadn't been in prior years.
I just wanna make sure that we're being consistent.
Absolutely.
And, we talked about, establishing a policy of, requiring some financial statements, some financial cost benefit. And you brought that up, I think, back in 2023, in talking 2023, 2022, that same issue came up. These issues keep coming up, and if we have a policy, then they quit coming up because we have a policy.
Exactly, and that's why I asked you about it.
Some of these entities maybe that don't have a controller, I say, may not understand what we're even asking for. Because, some of the social services, they come in here and they don't really give us, giving us a financial statement. They give us what they're doing product-wise, how they're impacting Marion County. But I think sometimes they're confused on, bring us in your financial statement, bring us in your cash flow, bring us in your list of assets and liabilities.
That's why I broached it with you, when I did, was because it would make sense to have a policy, to have some of that stuff up ahead before they even come to the board. And this year, we already have some scheduled, as we discussed. And so we don't have that policy quite yet in place. So that's why I asked if they should go ahead and come or not. And it was my understanding that they're coming. And then we're going to follow up and get the information that we need. But we're in the meantime going to be developing a policy, adopting it.
Have access to those records.
Right.
Because especially with the social services, they've just been going up astronomically over the last 4, 5, 10 years.
Well, there's always need, and a need keeps growing.
Right. I understand that, but they're not scared to ask.
And then one other thing that to consider on that is what I know one other county has done recently is they said, here's amount of a limit that we're gonna put as a group, like this $500,000 or whatever it is, this is what we're going to set aside for social requests. And then they use the application to go through and kind of vet that, they get the financial information, and then there's a process that, once they meet all those criteria, they can come to the board, and then that pot can be potentially divided up based on those criteria. That's what I'm trying to get to, so. But you don't have to do a designated amount.
Wouldn't that get cumbersome? Because
it's all cumbersome.
okay, your entity's bigger, so you get 52%. Yours is smaller, so you get 48%.
No, they don't all have a need based on the size of their,
Plus, if you do set aside $500,000 or whatever it was, and then you paid them all out, and then you still had 5-10 grand left in there. The very next year, every one of them's gonna bump what they want from you because you didn't empty the pot. So, No. No.
Well, some of our farm payments are based the other way. They allocate all this and we only get a small percentage of it. It's just reality.
But I agree, we need to be consistent, and that's why I was wanting to try to get a framework developed. And I'm glad that the board is in agreement with that.
Comments on policy?
I think we do need some kind of policy as far as we need to have their financials. I mean, that's for sure.
Right, you already voted on that, I think. Was that when you were gone?
Yes.
It's gonna take a year to get,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody's not go through to do that.
Well, I think they could provide us prior to your financials.
Well, I mean, people's already been here.
But I think we could still request that.
Yeah.
I think we did already.
Yeah, you did, so that'll be.
Just due diligence, that's all it is.
Yes, should we have a policy? So I said, yeah.
Any other commissioners' comments?
I got to go over to the McPherson County open house the other day, office building. I'm jealous. Everybody should be. Most of their courthouse is moving in there. I don't know if there'll be a department left in the courthouse other than the court. But what a tremendous asset they have there. Probably isn't a better office building in the state of Kansas.
What was it before?
McPherson Bank and Trust,
It's a big.
five stories.
Or downtown there?
Yeah, and if you wanna go to a commission meeting, you can get a 360-degree view of the city. But they did it right. I mean, they were smart in what they did, so.
It was quite feasible.
Okay, anything? Artie, you tell us about your trip?
Yeah, so DC is, I didn't know what to expect, but I would go back again. I mean,
Interesting.
the leadership deal was intense. I'm gonna say that straight out loud. I mean, it was more than I expected. Far exceeded whatever I thought I was getting into. Changes maybe a little bit on how I view where people come from and their different places that they sit. I don't know that it's going to change how I handle things other than having a better understanding of other people. But as far as DC itself was fabulous. There was National Guard everywhere. All the statues and monuments are all cleaned up. All the fountains are starting to work. All the lights are working. I've seen so many, not necessarily single women, but women by themselves just walking without a care in the world. Telling you how safe the place has become.
Well, women are 2 to 1 back then.
And so we got to tour the reflecting pool, starting to fill up with water. We talked about how it was going to be blue and it wouldn't reflect. It reflects just fine. I got to watch a takedown though. I did get to watch the National Guard in action for a little bit, so that was kind of interesting.
We're picking on you.
Yeah. I did get to go do a night tour of the Capitol. We had to go to some areas that are pretty much off limits to anybody during the day. So, and then I went and took a day tour, just to know what I missed on the night tour. But no, great time. I highly suggest anybody that's thinking about going to DC, go. I would go in the next 2.5 years, but there's a chance for it to get ruined. All right, that's all I got to say.
I'd talked to some people that just got back from a tour on Saturday, And some of the people had been there before, were reluctant to go, but they went because of the 250th year.
Yeah.
They said the place is 100% different than it was.
That's what all the locals
They
told
weren't
me.
even scared, they weren't scared to go walk, to go to eat or anything. Everything's pristine, clean.
That's what the locals all told me is, they basically started from the Potomac and they worked their way east and get out to 15th Street where that other river is. They ain't got past that point yet. Don't go over that. But they said they've worked straight east and just straight cleaning up that 10 mile by 10 mile until they got over to the river, and then they're still working on that.
You know, I was there 20 years ago. At McDonald's right downtown. Got propositioned 3 times before I got my hamburger. This was in the morning.
No,
It's different now.
didn't see none of that. It was complete family atmosphere. Completely family atmosphere. Totally walkable. I'm not a walker. I walk from the house to the Duramax, from the Duramax to the shop. My legs have never been so sore in my entire life. Maybe back when I was in high school during track, but yeah, no. But the e-scooters, those are a blessing. Especially when you were done, tired out.
Second day of basketball practice for me.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.